Chapter 3806. What do you think? Nye Tian asked coldly as he locked his gaze on the holy son of all evil with a murderous glare. The murderous intent in his eyes was like two icy blades that made the holy son of all evil feel a bone-chilling coldness. You! The holy son of all evil's eyes trembled as he screamed. He was so scared that his face turned pale and he couldn't speak. He hadn't expected that Nye Tian, who had integrated the power of 5 tribulations, would become so powerful. He still remembered that the first time he had met Nye Tian, he had been able to crush the latter. Although he had been killed by the latter in the end, he had always believed that it had been an accident. The second time, Nye Tian had been able to fight him head-on and defeat him. Now that he was standing in front of Nye Tian, the fierce aura Nye Tian exuded made him feel extremely oppressed, as well as a deep sense of fear. In just a few days, Nye Tian's transformation had left the holy son of all evil in disbelief. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that there was such a genius in this world. He considered himself to be the number 1 genius of the heaven of evil. However, in front of Nye Tian, he felt like a piece of trash. If you don't want to die, you'd better stay away from me. Nye Tianling smiled coldly. He had no intention of killing the holy son of all evil. On one hand, he had an agreement with the people in the heart of all evil. On the other hand, he didn't want to provoke the faction behind the holy son of all evil. Furthermore, he had a feeling that the sky of all evil might be related to the Bodhi seed. The Bodhi seed knew the holy son of all evil very well. Furthermore, Nye Tian had secretly observed the way the Bodhi seed looked at the holy son of all evil. There was something strange about it. There was another reason, and that was that the holy son of all evil was Lan Zhuiying's older brother. Lan Zhuiying was currently in the hands of the Devil's Knight, and had her memories forcibly altered. However, Nye Tian believed that Lan Zhuiying's memories could definitely be restored. After Lan Zhuiying recovered, Nye Tian would let her decide whether the holy son of all evil deserved to die. Saint's son of all evil sensed the coldness in Nye Tian's eyes, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He subconsciously backed away from Nye Tian. He knew that he was no longer a match for Nye Tian. The corners of Nye Tian's mouth twitched, and he ignored the holy son of all evil. At this time, Devil's Knight, the emperor of the underworld, Lian Jiufeng, and the Bodhi seed were still absorbing tribulation power. It seemed that they still needed some time. Nye Tian guessed that the speed at which he fused with the power of the 5 tribulations might be related to his martial body. His martial body was very strong, so he completed the fusion the fastest. Next, Devil's Knight was the first to complete the fusion. When he saw that Nye Tian was done, his expression turned ugly, but he didn't say anything. Next was the Bodhi seed, followed by Lian Jiufeng, and finally the Emperor of the Underworld. After the Emperor of the Underworld finished fusing with the power of the 5 tribulations, his expression was somewhat ugly. His entire body was covered in cold sweat. It seemed that forcibly fusing with the power of the 5 tribulations was extremely taxing on him. Many thanks, Nye Tian. At this time, the Bodhi seed's figure moved, and he appeared beside Nye Tian with a faint smile. Nye Tian could clearly feel that the Bodhi seed's aura was much stronger than before. At this time, the Emperor of the Underworld also appeared beside the two. Devil's Knight's eyes were incomparably cold. He stared at Nye Tian without saying a word. At this time, because the fusion of the power of the 5 tribulations had ended, the tribulation power boundary of the entire 5 tribulations mountain range disappeared. The experts in the sky descended one after another. Nye Tian didn't see anyone appear, but he could clearly feel the fluctuations in the void. It seemed that the experts in hiding had returned. Nye Tian, I didn't expect the fusion of the power of the 5 tribulations to be so smooth. This is great. At this time, old ancestor Wu Ming's voice rang out. He couldn't conceal his excitement. He really didn't expect the power of the 5 tribulations to be so easily fused with Nye Tian and the others. Nye Tian nodded with a smile. He also didn't expect things to go so smoothly. Nye Tian, let's go. Old Ancestor Wu Ming smiled and prepared to leave with Nye Tian. For some reason, he had an ominous premonition, as though something bad was about to happen. Nye Tian frowned. He looked at Devil's Knight and said, "Devil's Knight, I want to take Lan Zhuing away." "Why?" Devil's Knight sneered. "And even if I'm willing, I'm afraid that Lan Zhuing won't leave me." "Restore her memories," Nye Tian said in a low voice, his eyes as cold as killing intent. "Humph." Devil's Knight smiled. "Do you think that's possible? State your conditions." Nye Tian's expression was gloomy. He didn't want to fight Devil's Knight at this time. He only wanted to resolve the matter of Lan Zhuing peacefully. Mark of the Ancestral Dragon. The corner of Mo's mouth twitched, revealing an evil smile as he said those 4 words in a deep voice. Nye Tian was startled. He didn't understand what Devil's Knight meant. "You've already awakened 1 mark of the Ancestral Dragon." Devil's Knight smiled. "I want the person behind you to help me awaken another mark of the Ancestral Dragon. As long as I awaken 1 mark of the Ancestral Dragon, I'll return Lan Zhuing to you. How about it?" Upon hearing Mo's words, Nye Tian couldn't help but furrow his eyebrows. His expression turned very ugly. He didn't expect Devil's Knight's condition to be this. Devil's Knight inherited the power of the 9 dragon veins from him, so it wasn't strange for him to also inherit the Ancestral Dragon's mark. It seemed that Devil's Knight saw how terrifying the Ancestral Dragon Chi was, so he wanted to be like Nye Tian and awaken the Ancestral Dragon's mark to control the Ancestral Dragon Chi. Nye Tian's expression sank and he didn't speak for a long time. Awakening the Ancestral Dragon's mark wasn't easy. Back then, when Ancestor Wu Ming helped him awaken the Ancestral Dragon's mark, his martial physique still hadn't fully recovered. Moreover, with Devil's Knight's ruthlessness, it would be dangerous if Ancestor Wu Ming helped him awaken the Ancestral Dragon's mark. Ancestor Wu Ming could bear the risk for Nye Tian, but it was too much to ask him to bear the risk for Lan Zhuing. "What? You're not willing?" Seeing that Nye Tian wasn't speaking, Devil's Knight's eyes turned cold. "Since that's the case, then I'll let Lan Zhuing be my dog forever." "You're forcing my hand." Nye Tian's eyes sank. He let out a low roar and took a step forward with his aura surging out. "You want to fight? I'll accompany you to the end." Devil's Knight wasn't afraid at all. He also stepped forward with his aura surging like the sea. Neither of them gave way, and a great battle was about to begin. Boom! However, right at this moment, an explosion suddenly resounded in the sky. "What's going on?" Everyone suddenly raised their heads. The scene that entered their eyes caused their expressions to change, and they were so shocked that they couldn't speak. A huge space-time crack appeared in the sky, as if it was forcefully torn open by someone. Endless space-time storms surged out like thousands of demons dancing in the air. Asterisk boom. Boom. Asterisk boom. Asterisk at the next moment, 3 streams of dark energy surged out from the huge crack and surged in the void. Then, they slowly condensed into 3 illusory black dragons. Chapter 3807. The Black Dragon Triad. Old Ancestor Wu Ming's eyes widened when he saw the 3 black dragons' silhouettes. His face stiffened and he was speechless. He could not believe that the legendary number 1 taboo of the dragon tribe, the Black Dragon Triad, had appeared at this moment. Old Ancestor Wu Ming did not know much about decursion, but he knew that there were 3 martial artists of the Black Dragon tribe around him. They were known as the Black Dragon Triad, and they could be said to be the most terrifying people around decursion. He did not expect the Black Dragon Triad to appear at this moment. He had never seen the Black Dragon Triad with his own eyes, but he could sense that the ominous aura released by the 3 black dragons' silhouettes was overwhelming. He could not think of anyone else in the dragon tribe apart from the Black Dragon Triad that had such a strong ominous aura. The dragon shepherds. Old Ancestor Wu Ming's eyes suddenly widened as if he had understood something. His expression changed as he exclaimed in his heart. There was only one explanation for the Black Dragon Triad's sudden appearance. It was the dragon shepherds. Without a doubt, the Black Dragon Triad was here for the dragon shepherds. What a terrifying dragon aura! At this moment, Nie Tian looked at the 3 black dragon silhouettes in the sky and was shocked. He had seen many experts of the dragon tribe, but it was his first time seeing such a terrifying dragon aura. Even the dragon aura of old ancestor Wu Ming of the Nether Dragon tribe did not make Nie Tian panic. The 3 black dragons in front of him actually caused Nie Tian to feel inexplicably flustered. He was someone who possessed the scar of the ancestral dragon. What kind of dragon aura could suppress the ancestral dragon's aura? What kind of power is this? Why is it so terrifying? Everyone looked at the 3 black dragon silhouettes in the sky with shocked expressions. Their eyes were trembling, and they could not hide the fear in their hearts. Boom! 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 At that moment, 3 black dragon phantoms appeared in the sky. Immediately, a boundless black dragon malevolent aura spread out like a volcano eruption, instantly enveloping the entire sky. The world immediately fell into darkness, as if doomsday was about to arrive. Then, the 3 black dragons swooped down, stirring up an incomparably violent aura in the air, suppressing the heavens and earth. Instantly, everyone felt an overwhelming pressure that covered the heavens and the earth. It came crashing down, as if the entire world was going to collapse in an instant. Rumble! Immediately, the 5 Tribulations mountain range let out a terrifying roar. The mountain range that stretched for tens of thousands of miles actually sank by 3 inches under the terrifying pressure. The entire mountain range suddenly collapsed and cracks appeared on the ground. It was truly a scene of the heavens falling and the earth splitting apart. Huh! Nie Tian's expression suddenly changed, and his eyes began to tremble. He had never imagined that the strength of the 3 black dragon shadows would actually be so formidable. At that moment, the 3 black dragons were still hundreds of thousands of meters in the sky, but he could already feel the terrifying pressure coming from all directions. Even with the strength of his martial body, he was actually unable to withstand the terrifying pressure, and his entire body felt like it was going to collapse. Run! Then, a series of panicked screams sounded in the sky. The experts who were originally hiding in the sky appeared one after another, and they directly brought the martial artists that they were protecting away. Nie Tian, run! At that moment, old ancestor Wu Ming's voice rang in Nie Tian's ears. The latter seemed to be very panicked, and his voice was slightly trembling. Nie Tian frowned, and without hesitation, astral soul wings appeared on his back. His figure was like a flowing light, and he frantically flew out. However, his speed was still very slow. The pressure above his head was getting stronger, and his speed was getting slower and slower. Damn it! He growled, and his body trembled. He directly released the ancestral dragon chi, wanting to break through the surrounding pressure. However, at that moment, old ancestor Wu Ming screamed in horror, and his voice immediately turned sharp. No! However, it was too late. Nie Tian had already released the ancestral dragon chi. Dragon shepherds! At the same time, the 3 black dragons instantly sensed the ancestral dragon chi, and immediately recognized the aura of the dragon shepherds. Their huge figures paused in the sky, and then they rolled over, and directly pressed down on Nie Tian. The 3 of them were Dikashu's 3 evils black dragons. Dikashu had awakened them from the ice to find the dragon shepherds. They did not expect to find the dragon shepherds so smoothly. What's going on? Nie Tian suddenly felt the pressure from the space increase. His eyes could not help but tremble, and his expression suddenly changed as he screamed. He immediately turned around, and saw the 3 black dragons descending from the sky like 3 huge Xian thunders, and directly pressing down on him. His face could not help but stiffen. At that moment, he finally realized that the 3 black dragons were coming for him. "Nie Tian, get out of the way!" At that moment, old ancestor Wu Ming's voice was heard. Then, he charged forward furiously, and the nether dragon Qi was released from his body, and he forcefully charged at the 3 black dragons. "Senior!" Seeing this, Nie Tian's eyes trembled violently, and he cried out in shock. He did not expect old ancestor Wu Ming to do such a shocking thing. Old ancestor Wu Ming was indeed an expert, but his strength was clearly not on the same level as the 3 black dragons. If he were to charge forward and collide with the 3 black dragons head-on, he would definitely die. "Don't worry about me. Take Qi Yi and leave." Old ancestor Wu Ming did not hesitate. He roared, and immediately, the nether dragon Qi around his body condensed into a nether dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long, and it directly charged at the 3 black dragons. Nie Tian was stunned, and his expression could not help but stiffen. He still had not figured out what was going on. "Nie Tian, run! They're here for you!" At that moment, Fat Cat's panicked voice was heard. Nie Tian frowned, but he did not move. He was very calm at that moment. He knew that with old ancestor Wu Ming's strength, it was impossible for him to stop the 3 black dragons. Once old ancestor Wu Ming died, he would not be able to escape. Boom! Bang bang bang! At that moment the most horrifying collision occurred in the sky. The abyss dragon crashed straight into the 3 black dragons. A rumble rang out in the air, and then the body of the abyss dragon instantly exploded, turning into draconic qi and dissipating. "Senior!" Nie Tian's eyes trembled as he exclaimed. As expected, old ancestor Wu Ming was no match for the 3 black dragons. Old ancestor Wu Ming instantly fell into a life and death situation. Chapter 3808. He is. The figure that suddenly appeared in the sky caused Nie Tian's eyes to tremble. He exclaimed in his heart before his expression froze. He sensed a strong aura of star energy from that person. This person was the one who had been hiding behind the scenes, the one who had arranged everything for Nie Tian. Ever since Nie Tian came to the 5 underworld sacred domain, everything seemed to have been arranged. Nie Tian had long known that there was definitely someone behind the scenes, but this person had never appeared. And now, this mysterious person had finally appeared. Judging from his aura, this person was either a Star Lord or a Starry Sky emissary. "It's you." After being saved, the 5 underworld old ancestor steadied himself. When he saw the black-clothed figure, his expression changed as he cried out in alarm. "Old thing, back off quickly. Don't hinder me," the black-clothed figure said coldly with a gloomy expression. "You." The 5 underworld old ancestor's expression sank, but he did not know what to say. He could only leave silently. Although the other party's words were unpleasant, they were the truth. If the 5 underworld old ancestor stayed, he would only be a burden and would not be able to help at all. Nie Tian's guess was right. This black-clothed figure was the one who had secretly made a deal with the 5 underworld old ancestor. The 5 underworld old ancestor did not expect that this person would appear at this time and save him. "Senior, who is he?" The 5 underworld old ancestor came to Nie Tian's side as the latter asked impatiently. "He is the one who made a deal with this old ancestor," the 5 underworld old ancestor said, but his eyes were fixed on the black-clothed figure. He could not hide the worry on his face as he muttered, "This guy is a freak. His strength has not decreased after so many years. I hope he can block the black dragon evils." Nie Tian frowned, but his eyes showed that he was not confident. He could sense that the black-clothed figure's aura was much weaker than the 3 black dragons. If it was only one black dragon, the black-clothed figure might be able to block it. However, there were 3 black dragons. The black-clothed figure definitely could not block them. Cram! At this time, a black dragon rotated in the void and condensed into a human form. Its pair of incomparably dark eyes stared coldly at the black-clothed man and said, "This person was the head of the black dragon's 3 evils, the Heaven Fiend King. The other 2 black dragon evils were the Earth Evil's Sovereign and Feather Evil's Sovereign respectively. Who are you people?" The black-robed man's face was gloomy. He spoke coldly, but he didn't retreat even half a step. "You can't protect Dragon Shepherd." Heaven Emanation's king did not care about the man in black at all. Instead, he let out a low roar and took a step forward. He slapped down with his palm. Instantly, endless black dragon chi formed a dragon claw in the void. It tore through the void and pressed down on the man in black. The eyes of the man in black trembled, and his figure instantly moved several hundred meters to the side, avoiding the dragon claw attack. When the Heaven Fiend Sovereign saw this scene, he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. He sneered and said, "It's really surprising to have an expert like you in such a low-level sacred world." Dragon Shepherd? Who's Dragon Shepherd? Nie Tian couldn't help but frown when he heard Heaven Emanation's king's words. Heaven Emanation's king was implying that he was Dragon Shepherd. The 5 dark ancestral patriarch glanced at Nie Tian, but he didn't say anything. High in the sky, the Earth Evil Sovereign seemed a bit impatient and said directly, "Brother, don't waste time talking to him. Just kill him. He's just an ant. Kill him." On the other side, the Feather Evil Sovereign was even more irritable. He sneered and directly moved. The violent black dragon chi stirred up a terrifying storm in the void, directly bombarding the black-robed man. The black-robed man had no choice but to attack. He launched a palm strike to resist the dragon chi storm. Boom! The next moment the 2 forces collided, and a muffled sound was heard in the void. Then, the black-robed man was blown away, leaving behind a trail of blood. Well! The 5 dark ancestral patriarchs' eyes trembled as he exclaimed. He had never thought that the black-robed man would be so vulnerable in front of the black dragon evils. Nie Tian frowned and his face became very pale. "Nie Tian, take a force from your body and use it." At this moment, the black-robed man stabilized his body and immediately flew toward Nie Tian. While he was still in the air, he directly stretched out his hand. Immediately, a force gushed out and enveloped Nie Tian. Huh! Nie Tian was surprised. He thought that the black-robed man was also a star emissary who wanted to borrow something from the ninefold star river. Boom! However, the next moment, he felt his body shake inexplicably. Immediately, a force surged in his body and directly rushed out of his body, turning into a massive aura that soared to the sky. Then, a strange force gushed out of the black-robed man's hand, releasing a strong space-time attribute. Then, it merged with the aura released by Nie Tian's body and rushed to the 9th heaven. The next moment, a shocking scene happened. Boom! That terrifying force rushed to the sky and actually tore open a space-time crack in the sky. Then, a space-time crack was formed instantly. The 5 Darkness Old Ancestor was shocked by the scene in front of him. His eyes trembled and he couldn't react for a long time. Nie Tian's face also froze, and the shock in his heart couldn't be any greater. He guessed wrong. What the black-robed man wanted to borrow was not something from the ninefold star river, but something else in his body. His natal star soul. Yes, it was the natal star soul of the previous starry sky Saint Lord, Dongwang Jingrong in his body. Nie Tian couldn't believe that the black-robed man could actually activate the power of his natal star soul. This natal star soul was given to Nie Tian by the ancestor of all ghosts to change the aura of his star energy. However, only the ancestor of all ghosts knew about this natal star soul. How could this black-robed man know about it? Moreover, this black-robed man could activate his natal star soul, which made Nie Tian even more puzzled. Who exactly was this black-robed man? Nietian, I can't stop them. I can only help you to this extent. Now, let's see who will come to save you. At this time, the black-robed man suddenly looked at Nietian and said coldly. Then, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared in the void. That guy left just like that? The 5 darkness old ancestor's eyes trembled. He couldn't believe his eyes. The black-robed man actually left just like that. Dragon Shepherd, come with me. Then, the heaven monster Kingling said coldly. He took a step forward, and the black dragon aura around him surged like rolling dark clouds, spreading toward Nietian. This! Nietian's gaze suddenly trembled as he cried out in astonishment. Under the pressure of the enormous draconic aura, he was completely unable to retaliate in the slightest. Boom! At this critical moment, the space-time passage in the sky suddenly trembled strangely. Then, a powerful palm force whizzed out and destroyed the rolling black dragon aura. Chapter 3809. Old Ancestor, Sacred Heaven. Nietian's eyes couldn't help but tremble when he saw the figure that suddenly descended. He didn't expect the person in front of him to be the 8th star emissary, the divine sky ancestor, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. All of a sudden, he realized that the mysterious black-robed man had used Dongwang Jingrong's natal star mark to open a space-time tunnel to inform the others who were related to the star origin stone. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart must have sensed something, so it traveled through space-time and arrived instantly. Star Saint Lord, are you okay? The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart was as steady as a mountain. He transmitted his voice to Nietian, unable to hide his worry. He was cultivating in seclusion, but he suddenly sensed the aura of the natal star pattern, so he came out and connected the space-time channel with the power of the stars. He was surprised that Nietian was able to activate the power of the natal star pattern. He didn't even know that Nietian had Dongwang Jingrong's natal star pattern in his body. However, he could only suppress these questions for now. The most troublesome ones were the 3 black dragons. The evil triad of black dragons were very strong, far beyond the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's expectation. He didn't understand how Nietian could provoke such terrifying enemies. Who are you? The Heaven Devil King was pushed back by the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. He quickly steadied himself and stared at the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart with murderous eyes cold, as if he wanted to eat someone alive. That kind of resentment seeped into his bones. He was surprised. Since he found the dragon shepherds, it would be easy to capture the latter. However, he didn't expect that protectors would appear one after another around the dragon shepherds. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart that appeared now was much stronger than the previous 2. The Heaven Devil King felt extremely pressured when facing it alone. Who are you? The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart said coldly. The sword will surge like a storm, setting off rolling waves in the void. The sword aura shook the sky and roared. The Fiend King sensed the sword aura of the Crimson Life Loyal Heart and couldn't help but tremble. He couldn't hide the shock in his heart. He didn't expect that capturing a dragon shepherd who was only at the heavenly mandate realm would alarm such a powerful figure. The Heaven Fiend King was very sure that the swordsman in front of him was an expert of the Sky Martial Divine Ancestor level. He might even be a peak expert of the Sky Martial Divine Ancestor level. This was too terrifying. In the entire all-heaven sacred world, there were not many peak Sky Martial Saint Ancestors. Perhaps only the top sacred worlds had a few hundred such experts. Hundreds of Sky Martial Saint Ancestor peak overlords sounded like a lot. However, one must know that there were tens of thousands of sacred worlds in the all-heaven sacred world. The number of cultivators was uncountable. However, only a few hundred people were lucky enough to reach the peak of the Sky Martial Saint Ancestor realm. It was obvious how rare and precious peak Sky Martial Divine Ancestor realm warriors were. The Heaven Fiend King didn't expect that such a powerful figure would appear at this time. He is a dragon shepherd. We are here for him, the Heaven Fiend King said to Nietian. He was very afraid of the Crimson Life Loyal Heart. "I'm sorry. You can't take him away with me here," the Crimson Life Loyal Heart replied cold. He didn't care about the dragon shepherd that the Heaven Fiend King mentioned. In his eyes, Nye Tian was the Star Sacred Lord. As long as he was here, no one could hurt Nye Tian. "Sir, we are from the Dragon Clan. You have no idea what kind of enemy you are facing." The Heaven Fiend King's face darkened. He said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Sometimes it's better to stay away from things." "I'll say the same thing back to you," the Crimson Life Loyal Heart said cold. "Big brother, don't talk nonsense with him. Let's work together and kill him." The Devil Feather King was very angry. He took a step forward and shouted, "Kill him!" The Earth Emanations King had also made his preparations. The dragon energy in his body surged endlessly, surging violently like a raging storm. "Sir, I'll give you one last chance. You can still make it if you leave now," the Heaven Fiend King said in a low voice. "Let's do it," the Crimson Life Loyal Heart said in a low voice. He was the Star Messenger. He carried the title of Guardian on his shoulders. He would not back down even if he had to face a mountain of daggers, a sea of fire, or a bottomless abyss, let alone 3 black dragons. In his eyes, the safety of the Star Sacred Lord was more important than anything else. If that's the case, then don't blame us for not showing mercy. The Heaven Fiend King's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. He had retreated to his limit. Since the other party was not going to give in, he could only fight with them. "Kill!" Before the Heaven Fiend King could finish his sentence, the Devil Feather King roared. The dragon energy around his body surged. His entire body was submerged in the terrifying dragon energy. The dragon energy condensed into a black dragon and rushed towards the Crimson Life Loyal Heart. "Bring it on!" The Crimson Life Loyal Heart was not afraid at all. Instead, he laughed wildly. His face was filled with insolence. The Crimson Life Loyal Heart had never been afraid of any opponent. How could he show weakness in front of the 3 black dragons? Boom! In the next moment, a heavy sword appeared in the Crimson Life Loyal Heart's hand. Suddenly, a towering sword aura rushed out of his body. At this moment, it was as if his entire aura had changed. It was as if he was the ruler of this world. His every move could cause the entire world to collapse. Nye Tian felt the sword will and the dragon energy surging towards him. He immediately retreated. Boom! And at this moment, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart slashed down, directly slashing at the black dragon formed by Demon Feather King. In an instant, a thunderous sound rang out in the air. That gigantic black dragon stagnated in the air before its body directly crumbled. The Devil Feather King's figure appeared, but he was like a kite with a broken string. He fell straight down. Rumble! Crack, crack, crack. At the same time, the void could not withstand the pressure of the dragon energy and the sword will. It began to crack. The entire world seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Rumble! Boom, boom, boom. Below, the ground collapsed. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. It was a scene of destruction. Nye Tian retreated again. He did not expect that the casual fight between the Crimson Life Loyal Heart and the Devil Feather King would cause such a strong destructive force. At this moment, he truly understood how great the gap between him and a true powerhouse was. Chapter 38:10. The figure of the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart was like a mountain, standing in the sky like a mountain of swords. His whole body was surging with sword intent, sharp and vigorous, like thousands of strong winds, making him look domineering and extremely terrifying. Damn it! Below, the Demon Feather King managed to stabilize himself. His eyes were filled with cold light. He looked at the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart coldly and roared. On his chest, there was a 1-meter-long wound that was so deep that his bones could be seen. His entire body was bathed in blood. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's attack was too terrifying. If it wasn't for the fact that the martial body of the dragon tribe was much stronger than other martial bodies, the Demon Feather King would have been a corpse by now. Speaking of which, the Black Dragon Trio were martial ancestors of the Sky Martial Arts realm. They had even reached the peak of the Sky Martial Arts realm. However, after they were sealed in ice, their strength was weakened. In addition, they had just woken up, so their strength couldn't recover in a short time. That was why they were so weak in front of the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. That attack was just a warning. It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level. If you don't want to die, get lost. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's eyes were filled with murderous intent. It spoke in a cold voice. It sounded like thunder in the 9 heavens, resounding in the ears of the Black Dragon Trio. The Black Dragon Trio's faces darkened. Their eyes were extremely cold. They had come for the Dragon Shepherds. Now that the Dragon Shepherds were right in front of them, how could they leave just like that? In the distance, Nye Tian and Patriarch 5 Nether were watching from afar, their hearts filled with shock. This was especially the case for Forefather Wu Ming. His old face was completely stunned. He had never thought that such a powerful martial artist would come at such a critical moment. He couldn't help but feel uneasy. He knew that Nye Tian must be hiding a bigger secret. Perhaps Nye Tian's status was even higher than he had imagined. Die! At that moment, the Heaven Evil King made his move. The black dragon body rolled in the void, stirring up countless dark clouds. The dark clouds rolled down and oppressed the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart held a long sword in its hand. Its white robe fluttered in the wind. Its sword intent surged like an unmoving mountain in a storm. Boom! He stabbed out with his sword again. The shadow of the sword whizzed out and directly attacked the body of the black dragon. The dragon chi in the void tumbled like the sea. The world seemed to be heading towards destruction under the impact of such a violent force. Boom, boom, boom! At this moment, the space-time storm in the sky became even more terrifying. Waves of terrifying rumbles sounded, as if the heavens and earth were wailing. Scarlet Life Dan Xion's eyes darkened and his face was filled with murderous intent. If they continued to fight like this, the world would not be able to bear it. At that time, not only would the 5 underworld sacred world be destroyed, but the people of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Pavilion would also be alerted. The Heavenly Tao Sacred Pavilion was the strongest power in the all-heaven sacred world. Previously, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart had crossed paths with the people from the Heaven Tao Sacred Pavilion, and it was not easy to deal with. If the people from the Heavenly Tao Sacred Pavilion were to appear again, Nye Tian's identity would be exposed. He had never given up on investigating the death of the previous Starry Sky Saint, Dong Wang Zhengrong. The result of his investigation was that Dong Wang Zhengrong's death was most likely related to the Heaven Tao Sacred Pavilion. Therefore, he did not trust the Heaven Tao Sacred Pavilion. He was even worried that the Heaven Tao Sacred Pavilion might have ulterior motives for the Star Origin Stone. The last thing he wanted to see was the appearance of the people from the Heaven Tao Sacred Pavilion. "Sir, would you rather destroy this sacred world?" The Heaven Devil Monarch shouted after he regained his balance after he was pushed back by the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. He could already tell that the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart was holding back when he attacked. It was obvious that he was afraid of something. Come on! However, at this moment, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart waved his sword in the air. Instantly, a wave of sword intent appeared and spread across the area. A huge barrier of sword intent was formed. Big brother, is this guy crazy? He actually used his sword intent to stabilize the spacetime. Doesn't he know that by doing so much, it would be a form of damage to the foundation of his sword principle? Moreover, it would directly weaken his current battle prowess? When the Monster King saw this scene, his eyes trembled and he spoke coldly. Seems like he doesn't want to alarm the others. The Heaven Devil Monarch sneered and said, "That's good too. Even if we kill him, the others won't know." Just like what the Earth Devil Monarch said, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart used his sword intent to form a barrier. Not only would it consume a large amount of his sword intent, it would also damage the foundation of his sword principle. He did this to protect the 5 underworld sacred world. At the same time, he would not alarm the people from the Heaven Tao sacred pavilion. Big Brother, let him see the true power of the 3 evils. The Devil Feather Monarch came to the side of the evils of heaven and earth, and said coldly, "All right." The Heaven Devil Monarch and the Earth Devil Monarch laughed at the same time. Then, the 3 of them shook their bodies at the same time. Instantly, an endless amount of black dragon chi was released and merged together in the air. In an instant, a huge storm of dragon chi was formed. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart could feel the strong aura of the storm of dragon chi. He could not help but exclaim in surprise. He did not expect the dragon chi of the 3 black dragons to merge together. Oh no! Although Nye Tian was outside the barrier, he could clearly feel that the dragon chi released by the Black Dragon 3 evils was a few times stronger than before. Under such strong dragon chi, could the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart withstand it? Die! At this moment, a deep roar could be heard in the sword intent barrier. Then, in the storm of dragon chi, a huge black dragon was formed and rolled out. The space around it trembled as it charged towards the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. Sword principle conquering the heavens. Seeing this, the Scarlet Life Loyal Essence's eyes dimmed a little. Without the slightest fear, it let out a thunderous roar, and the sword intent in its body skyrocketed to the extreme. Then it slashed out. The sword's shadow pressed down the void, as if the sky and earth were sinking. Rumble! Boom boom boom! In the next moment, 2 extremely terrifying forces collided with each other. A loud bang could be heard. It was as though the sky and earth were about to explode. Then, a huge amount of energy spread out and the raging sea mausoleum rolled and spread in all directions. A terrifying power wreaked havoc in the void, violent and terrifying. Nye Tian's eyes trembled. Under the terrifying power, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and the Black Dragon 3 evils could no longer be seen in the sword intent barrier. This! Ancestor Wu Ming was shocked. His mouth was wide open, but he could not say a word. Boom! Crack crack crack! After a long time, a muffled sound came from the sky, followed by a cracking sound. Then, the sword intent barrier shattered. A bloody figure flew out. It was Ancestor Xingtian's Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. Senior! Seeing this scene, Nye Tian's eyes trembled and he exclaimed. Chapter 38:11. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart stood coldly in the void. He was covered in blood and his body was trembling uncontrollably. He was like a leaf in a storm that could fall at any time. However, his eyes were filled with sharpness and determination. He did not expect the Black Dragon Trio to have a combined attack that was so terrifying that it could injure him so severely. If he had known earlier, he would not have activated the enchantment of Sword Will even at the risk of attracting the attention of the Heavenly Law Sacred Pavilion. Although the enchantment of Sword Will had stabilized the spacetime, it had consumed too much of his Sword Will and caused his strength to decrease tremendously. If not for this, he would have been able to fight against the combined attack of the Black Dragon Trio. He would not have been defeated so badly. Old man, you can't hold on anymore. Get out of my way. The Devil of Heaven King stepped forward and said coldly. Even though the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart was severely injured, he did not dare to be careless. After all, his opponent was a peak divine ancestor. Bring it on. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart raised his head and laughed hysterically. Even at this stage, it was absolutely impossible for him to retreat. You are courting death. The Devil of Earth King's eyes darkened and he roared. Then, he attacked. Dragon Chi filled his body and he slammed his palm down. A shadow of a dragon's claw appeared in the air and flew towards the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's eyes trembled slightly. He swung his long sword across the void and resisted the attack of the dragon's claw. However, He was knocked back thousands of meters. Puff! He stabilized his body again. His face was red and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body shook even more violently. It was obvious that his injuries had worsened. Nie Tion's eyes flickered as he exclaimed, "Senior Crimson Life! Nie Tion, leave now!" The Scarlet Life loyal heart did not turn around, but his unyielding voice resounded in the void. Even if he was on the verge of death, he would do everything he could to win the last chance of survival for Nie Tion. "Senior, Nie Tion's eyes trembled and he did not know what to say. He watched as the Scarlet Life loyal heart fought against the Black Dragon Triad alone, but he could only watch. His strength was too weak to help at all. "Nie Tion, let's go." Old Ancestor Wu Ming grabbed Nie Tion and prepared to leave. "Senior Qi Ming fought to protect me. How can I leave just like that?" Nie Tion's face was extremely gloomy, and he roared directly. "Nie Tion, don't let my sacrifice be in vain." At that moment, the Scarlet Life loyal heart's voice was heard again. "I wanted to rebuild the starry sacred domain with you, but I'm afraid that's impossible now." "Senior." Nie Tion's gaze trembled, and his eyes were moist. "Sacred Lord, the Scarlet Life Pill heart has done its best." In the next moment, the Crimson Life loyal heart suddenly roared, and its body shook. Blood Qi and Sword Qi were released. Outside of its body, a gigantic sword shadow appeared. It was like a gigantic sword that pierced through the sky, oppressing the void. Even the air was trembling. "Senior, don't." Seeing this scene, Nie Tion's eyes trembled. He immediately understood what was going on and shouted. The Scarlet Life loyal heart was burning its Blood Qi and Sword Qi. It was obvious that it was going to perish together with the Black Dragon Triad. "You're courting death." Seeing this scene, the Devil King shouted cold. Then, he moved his body and merged with the Devil Earth King and the Devil Feather King again. In the billowing Dragon Qi, a gigantic black dragon appeared. Its terrifying aura shook the heavens and the earth, and it pressed down on the Scarlet Life loyal heart. "Die!" Almost at the same time, the Scarlet Life loyal heart roared. Suddenly, the gigantic sword outside of its body shook in the air, and like a collapsing mountain, it pressed down on the black dragon. Boom! In the next moment, the void suddenly shook, and an earth-shattering roar sounded. Suddenly, the heavens and the earth trembled, and the entire world seemed to be falling into destruction. Boom, boom, boom. In the space, endless power raged, and it turned into rolling waves. It spread in all directions, as if it wanted to destroy everything. "Go!" Seeing this, Old Ancestor Wu Ming roared. He directly took Nie Tion and retreated crazily. Boom, boom, boom. But at this time, the space-time could not bear it anymore, and it began to collapse on a large scale. The space-time storm crazily surged, engulfing and annihilating everything. "Oh no!" Old Ancestor Wu Ming's eyes trembled, and he shouted in his heart. The Scarlet Life loyal heart and the Black Dragon, three evils, were too strong. Under the confrontation of the two, the space-time of the mid-level sacred world could not bear it at all, and it began to collapse directly. Boom! In the next moment, the endless storm swept over, and it was about to drown Nie Tion and Old Ancestor Wu Ming. Hua! At the moment of life and death, in the space-time tunnel above Nie Tion's head, a huge power appeared and suddenly fell, turning into a shield, protecting Nie Tion and Old Ancestor Wu Ming. An expert! Old Ancestor Wu Ming's eyes trembled, and he could not help but exclaim. He had never expected that at this time, another expert would come. And judging from the aura, this expert was not weaker than the Scarlet Life loyal heart, and it was clearly another Sky Martial Divine Ancestor Peak expert. Old Ancestor Wu Ming already knew that the space-time tunnel above Nie Tion's head should be used to summon some people. But he could not imagine that with Nie Tion's strength, he could actually summon a Sky Martial Divine Ancestor Peak expert. He was even more curious about Nie Tion's identity. "You are At this time, under the protection of the shield, Nye Tian saw a black figure appear, and his eyes trembled, and he shouted a name, Lord of Stars. He could not believe his own name. The person who appeared at this time was actually the Lord of Stars, Heavenly Fiend Lone Star Lord. Back in the realm, Nye Tian had seen Heavenly Fiend Lone Star. Heavenly Fiend Lone Star and Killing Wolf were called the Double Absolute Star Souls. But Heavenly Fiend Lone Star, the Lord of Stars, was not friendly to Nye Tian, and he wanted to snatch the Star Essence Stones. For the Star Essence Stones, Heavenly Fiend Lone Star even built the Jueying Palace. But later, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart came, and Heavenly Fiend Lone Star temporarily stopped. Who would have thought that the person who appeared at this time was Heavenly Fiend Lone Star? Wait here. Heavenly Fiend Lone Star arrived and Cold said. Then his figure moved, and he directly rushed into the endless waves. Wherever his figure passed, the collapsed space-time directly recovered. After a while, Heavenly Fiend Lone Star's figure appeared again, holding a blood-colored figure in his hand. It was Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. Chapter 38:12. Huh! The Tiansha king sensed the murderous intent from Tiansha Longsing. He was surprised. He had already sensed that Tiansha Longsing's strength was no weaker than the Scarlet Life Loyal Essence. He was also a Sky Martial Saint ancestor at the peak. He couldn't understand how the Dragon Mu, who was only at the Heavenly Mandate realm, could attract so many Sky Martial Saint ancestors. The worst thing was that the three evils of Black Dragon had merged twice. Not only did they consume a lot of Dragon Chi, but they were also injured when fighting against the Scarlet Life Loyal Essence. At this moment, they were no longer able to fight against Tiansha Longsing. Senior Scarlet Life! Nye Tian shouted in the distance. He was obviously panicking. He is not dead yet. Tiansha Longsing's eyes darkened. He pushed his hand in the air and sent the Scarlet Life Loyal Essence to Nye Tian. Senior! Nye Tian's eyes trembled. He stepped forward and caught the Scarlet Life Loyal Essence. He sensed its aura. Although it was very weak, it was still there and stable. He heaved a sigh of relief. His tense face relaxed a little. The Scarlet Life Loyal Essence was seriously injured, but it was still alive. This was already great news. My friend, are you also going to protect the Dragon Mu? The Tiansha king looked at Tiansha Longsing. He seemed to be very scared and asked carefully. You've injured my friend. Tiansha Longsing's eyes were gloomy. His eyes were extremely evil. He said in a cold tone, There is a grudge between us. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward. His aura was released in an instant. Like rolling waves, the sky and earth shook. Seeing this, the Tiansha king's face darkened again. It seemed that there was another hard nut to crack. Big brother, let's kill him. The evil Feather King seemed to have lost his patience. He roared and moved. He turned into a giant black dragon in the void and pressed down on Tiansha Longsing. Third brother, watch out! The Tiansha king's eyes trembled. He shouted in fear. But it was too late. Bang! Tiansha Gushing slammed out with his palm, causing a thunderous sound to ring out in the air. The gigantic black dragon froze for a moment before disintegrating into pieces. After that, a blood-colored silhouette was flung through the air, leaving a trail of blood in the air. Third brother! The horrifying scene made the Heaven Monster King and the Earth Monster King scream in surprise at the same time. The two of them moved instantly and caught the Demon Feather King. However, at this moment, Demon King Feather's entire body was badly mutilated, and he was only left with his last breath. Third brother! The Monster King roared furiously. His eyes were crimson red and filled with blood, and he seemed like a berserk, an enraged beast. The aura on his entire body surged out crazily, and he suddenly looked towards the Monster King, wishing he could eat the latter. Second brother, don't be impulsive. Saving people is more important. The Heaven Emanations Sovereign held onto the Earth Emanations Sovereign. Although his eyes were trembling, he still maintained his basic rationality as he spoke in a deep voice. After losing the Demon Feather King, even if he merged with the Earth Emanations King, he wouldn't be able to fight against the Lone Star. If the Earth Monster King were to make a move at this moment, he would probably end up worse than the Demon Feather King. It was extremely possible that he would be killed by the Lone Star's palm strike. Your name? The Earth Monster King forcefully endured the immense pain in his heart as he looked at the Lone Star cold and asked. Myriad Star Pavilion Master, the Lone Star. The Lone Star's eyes sank slightly as he replied in a cold manner. I will remember it. The Earth Monster King roared in a deep voice, and his entire body was as violent as a ferocious beast. Let's go. The Heaven Monster King took a look at the Lone Star and spoke in a cold manner. After which, he tore the void apart and left with the Earth Monster King together with the Demon Feather King. The Lone Star's eyes sank and he didn't stop them. Instead, he watched as the evil Black Dragon Triad left. The aura of the evil Black Dragon Triad disappeared, and the Lone Star's gloomy face softened a little. After which, his body moved and he came to the side of Nyetian. Senior Sky Monster. Nyetian looked at the Lone Star, and he hesitated for a moment. In the end, he still addressed the Lone Star as Senior. No matter what, the Lone Star saved him and the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart at this time. The Lone Star didn't speak. Instead, he stretched out his hand and a powerful force appeared, condensing into a whirlpool in his palm. After which, it directly entered the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's martial body. After a moment, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart opened its eyes. When it saw the Lone Star, it wasn't too surprised. Instead, it squeezed out a smile and said, Sky Monster, you came after all. I just don't want the Star Origin Stone to fall into the hands of others, the Lone Star replied in a cold manner. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's mouth twitched, but it didn't say anything. Senior Scarlet Life, are you okay? Nyetian saw that the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart had woken up and asked anxiously. I won't die for the time being. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart laughed, but there was an unconcealable sense of loss in its eyes. This time, it was a little careless. If it wasn't for the Lone Star's arrival, it would have really died in the hands of the evil Black Dragon Triad. However, at this time, even if it survived, the foundation of its swordsmanship had been damaged to a certain extent, and its strength had dropped a lot. Senior, it's all thanks to you this time. Nyetian nodded slightly, glanced at the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and the Lone Star, and sincerely thanked them. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart took a deep breath, and its expression improved a lot. It looked at Nyetian and asked, Nyetian, who are those three guys? Why are they looking for you? I don't know, it seems to be because of some dragon shepherd. Nyetian shook his head and couldn't help but look at Ancestor Wu Ming. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and the Lone Star's expression changed, and they also looked at Ancestor Wu Ming. Ancestor Wu Ming felt the pressure from the two experts and frowned deeply. After a long silence he said, You two, come back with me first. I will tell you the truth. Nyetian nodded, and the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and the Lone Star didn't object. Not long after, Ancestor Wu Ming brought Nyetian and the others back to the valley. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart looked at Ancestor Wu Ming. It obviously couldn't wait any longer. But at this time, before Ancestor Wu Ming could speak, the Lone Star took a step forward and stared at Nyetian. I want to know, why do you have the Sacred Lord's Destiny Star rune on you? Destiny Star rune. Nyetian's eyes narrowed when he heard this name. He could summon the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and the Lone Star because of the Star Sacred Lord's Destiny Star rune. However, the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and Lone Star didn't know about the Destiny Star rune. Nyetian was a little hesitant. He didn't know if he should tell them about it. Nyetian, what's going on? The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart couldn't help but feel anxious when it saw Nyetian's hesitation. Nyetian frowned and let out a long breath. He finally told them about the Destiny Star rune. Chapter 38:13. Nye Tian couldn't help but frown upon hearing that the heavenly cursed Lone Star was suspecting him. In the next moment, his expression flickered and his eyes went blank. Gu Xing said that only Dongwang Jingrong could activate the natal star mark. It was obvious that Dongwang Jingrong had appeared before. This hint was no small matter. Dongwang Jingrong had been dead for a long time. Otherwise, the star essence stone would not have fallen into Nye Tian's hands. Everyone believed that Dongwang Jingrong was dead. However, it was very strange that Nye Tian had activated the natal star mark. Could it be that Dongwang Jingrong was still alive? Nye Tian, who activated the natal star mark? At this time, the Crimson Life Loyal Heart also came to its senses and asked Nye Tian with a pair of blazing and excited eyes. I don't know who that senior is either. Nye Tian frowned and shook his head helplessly. He then told her what had happened. A mysterious man. Scarlet Life Dan Xion's pupils shrank slightly, and he couldn't help but feel a little strange. According to Nye Tian, this mysterious person had been helping Nye Tian secretly. He was also the one who activated the natal star mark. Moreover, the mysterious person knew that once the natal star mark was activated, someone would come to save Nye Tian. Obviously, this mysterious person was very familiar with the natal star mark and the star essence stone. He had secretly helped Nye Tian and saved Nye Tian's life. Obviously, he was not an enemy. However, his identity was very mysterious. Scarlet Life Loyal Heart could not think of a second person who could activate the natal star mark other than Dongwang Jingrong. Could it be that brother Dongwang is still alive? The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's eyes trembled for a long time before he finally voiced out his guess. His body trembled at this moment and his eyes were filled with unconcealable excitement. Although Nye Tian was the current star saint, he still hoped that Dongwang Jingrong was still alive. I don't know either. Nye Tian shook his head and said, I don't know much about that senior. I didn't even see his face clearly. Then, he turned to look at Ancestor Wu Ming. The latter seemed to have some grudges with the mysterious person. Perhaps he knew the person's true identity. Friend, do you know the true identity of that mysterious person? Gu Xing looked at old Ancestor Wu Ming with a dark gaze. I only know that he is the enemy of the Dark Dragon tribe. I don't know anything else. Ancestor Wu Ming said coldly. Huh! Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and Lonely Star looked at Ancestor Wu Ming in surprise. Looking at Forefather Five Nether's expression, it didn't seem like he was lying. Tian Sha, if he's really alive and wants to hide his identity, we won't be able to find him. After a moment of silence, Scarlet Life Loyal Heart shook his head and smiled helplessly. After all, Tian Chen, Tian, and said, he Tian Wu Life. If he is alive, why didn't he come out to see us? Lone Star's eyes were gloomy like killing intent as he said coldly, so many people died because of him. If he didn't die, then wouldn't the others have died in vain? Tian Sha, how can you blame the deaths of others on Big Brother Dongwang? Scarlet Life Loyal Essence heard Tian Sha's words and could not help but frown, obviously very unhappy. When he was alive, everyone revolved around him. When he died, so many people followed him to the grave. Lone Star, on the other hand, had a stern expression as he said coldly, could it be that we can only be his vassals? Just because he is the Star's sacred lord, he is the master? We are the Star messengers, so we have to be his servants? Who made that rule? After he finished speaking, the heavenly cursed Lone Star's eyes flickered with an evil light. It was clear that he was surging with a chilling, killing intent. Sensing the frigid aura emanating from the heavenly cursed Lone Star, Nye Tian couldn't help but shiver inwardly. He didn't expect Lone Star to have such a strong hatred for the former Star Sky sacred leader. Sky Devil, is this what you've been holding in your heart all this time? Scarlet Life Dan Xian looked at Sky Devil, frowned, and said in a deep voice. Lonely Star was silent for a moment. His eyes flashed coldly again. If Dong Huang Jingrong is still alive, he must give me an explanation. If his words do not satisfy me, I will personally kill him. You! Scarlet Life Loyal Heart was at a loss for words. I'm leaving. Lonely Star said cold. He looked at Nye Tian and said, This is the last time I help you. Take care of yourself in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, his silhouette moved. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared instantly. He did not even listen to what happened with the dragon shepherds. It was as if all of this had nothing to do with him. Nye Tian looked in the direction where Lonely Star disappeared. He frowned and shook his head. It seemed that there was a deep misunderstanding between Lonely Star and Dong Huang Jingrong. It could even be said that there was hatred between them. Back when Tang 13 had left with the cursed Lone Star, Nye Tian had wanted to ask her about her situation. However, the cursed Lone Star had already left. Sigh. Scarlet Life Loyal Heart sighed and did not speak for a long time. At this moment, the biggest question in his mind was, is Dong Huang Jingrong still alive? Nye Tian had the same question, but he was more inclined to believe that the mysterious person was not Dong Huang Jingrong. But if the mysterious person was not Dong Huang Jingrong, then who was it? How could he activate Dong Huang Jingrong's natal star rune? Everything was like a huge mystery. Nye Tian's mind was in a mess. Nye Tian, it's enough that we only know about this. Don't tell anyone else. Scarlet Life Loyal Heart looked at Nye Tian and said carefully. I know. Nye Tian smiled. He was not an idiot. How could he tell others about this? Friend, you can tell us about the dragon shepherds now. Scarlet Life Loyal Heart nodded and said to Ancestor Wu Ming. Ancestor Wu Ming nodded and began to talk about the dragon tribe and the dragon shepherds. I see. Nye Tian and Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's expression changed after hearing Ancestor Wu Ming's story. None of them had expected that Nye Tian actually had such a heaven-shaking secret. Brother Wu Ming, are you sure that Nye Tian is the legendary dragon shepherd of your dragon clan? The Crimson Life Dan Heart calmed down and asked Patriarch Wu Ming. I'm sure. Ancestor Wu Ming nodded and said, although the dragon shepherds have always been a legend, when Nye Tian awakened the ancestral dragon Scar, the image of the dragon shepherds appeared in my divine sense. This is definitely not wrong. Chapter 38:14. This. Nye Tian and Scarlet Life Dan Xian saw that Ancestor Wu Ming was so determined. Their expressions changed and their hearts sank. At this time, it was basically confirmed that Nye Tian was the legendary dragon shepherd of the dragon clan. Otherwise, he would not have disturbed the Daikarma ruins. And now, the biggest threat in front of Nye Tian was from the Daikarma ruins. The Daikarma ruins was the top taboo of the dragon clan. It was a super existence that had been frozen for thousands of years. It was definitely not a good thing for Nye Tian to be targeted by it. The Black Dragon Triple Evils had appeared this time. Who knew who would appear next time? Maybe the Daikarma ruins would show up in person. Nye Tian had multiple identities, but his own strength was too weak. In front of an expert of the Daikarma ruins level, he had no ability to protect himself. Moreover, even Scarlet Life Dan Xian and the others might not be able to fight against the Daikarma ruins. The Black Dragon Triple Evils that had just awakened already made Scarlet Life Dan Xian feel overwhelmed. If other experts appeared, even if Scarlet Life Dan Xian stayed by Nye Tian's side, it might not be able to protect him. And the Daikarma ruins' strength was even more unfathomable. It should be known that when the Dragon Clan was at its peak, the Daikarma ruins almost destroyed the entire Dragon Clan with its own strength. One could imagine how strong it was. Moreover, a super existence that had been frozen for thousands of years might even have the possibility of breaking through the limits of the Saint Realm. When Nye Tian thought of this, he suddenly felt more pressure, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Brother Wu Ming, do you have any way to help Nye Tian avoid the Daikarma ruins search? Scarlet Life Dan Xin was also nervous at this moment. He looked at Ancestor Wu Ming and asked in a deep voice. Nie Tian had just awakened the mark of the ancestral dragon, and the Daikarma ruins had found him in a very short time. There must be some special method. The only way for Nie Tian to survive was to avoid the Daikarma ruins search. The Dai ruins is far away in the primordial dragon domain, but the wood dragon energy released when Nie Tian awakened the mark of the ancestral dragon still woke it up. Old Ancestor Wu Ming said with a gloomy face, I guess that the reason why the Daikarma ruins could find Nie Tian in such a short time was that they must have sensed the chi of the dragon hurting. In the future, if Nie Tian doesn't use the dragon chi in his body, it won't be easy to find him in the Daikarma ruins. Nie Tian couldn't help but frown upon hearing Patriarch Wu Nether's words. He still had a long way to go and would inevitably encounter danger in the future. The ancestral dragon energy was one of the trump cards he could rely on. If it was a moment of life and death, couldn't he use the stone dragon's dragon chi? If that was the case, his battle prowess would be greatly reduced, and he might not even be as strong as he was before he awakened the mark of the ancestral dragon. However, this method will only increase the difficulty of searching the Emperor Karma ruins. Then, old Ancestor Wu Ming said again, there's only one way to get rid of the Daikarma ruins search. What is it? Scarlet Life Loyal Heart and Nie Tian's eyes trembled at the same time and they exclaimed. Old Ancestor Wu Ming's eyes were cold as he stared at Nie Tian and said word by word, Destroy the dragon's vein. Destroy the dragon's vein? Nie Tian's eyes trembled and he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. He even suspected that he had heard wrongly. His dragon's vein was his Yuan meridian. However, old Ancestor Wu Ming actually wanted him to destroy his Yuan meridian. Wasn't this equivalent to asking him to cripple his own martial arts? Brother Wu Ming, are you joking? Scarlet Life Loyal Heart, of course, knew what old Ancestor Wu Ming's words meant. His face sank and he said cold. Does I look like he's joking? Old Ancestor Wu Ming asked with a cold expression. Senior Wu Ming, you're not really going to destroy my dragon's vein, are you? Nie Tian's eyes trembled and he asked in astonishment. Destroying the dragon's vein is the way to completely cut off the ancestral dragon chi in your body. Only in this way can you avoid the search of the Daikarma ruins. Old Ancestor Wu Ming looked at Nie Tian and said solemnly. Nie Tian's face froze and he was speechless. Of course, destroying the dragon's vein would allow him to get rid of the Daikarma ruins, but in this way, he would be equivalent to a useless person. What was the point of living like this? No. Absolutely not. Scarlet Life Loyal Heart's eyes were gloomy and he refused coldly. He would never allow Nie Tian to become a useless person. Nie Tian, what about you? Old Ancestor Wu Ming looked at Nie Tian with a strange expression. I can't destroy the dragon's vein just to get rid of someone. Nie Tian calmed down and said coldly, if you can't avoid it, then let the Daikarma ruins come. Very well. Old Ancestor Wu Ming suddenly smiled strangely when he felt the determination in Nie Tian's eyes. What do you mean? Nie Tian went blank for a moment, his face filled with confusion. Could it be that old Ancestor Wu Ming was testing me just now? Nie Tian, I just wanted to test you to see if you're a coward. Old Ancestor Wu Ming smiled again and said, You're very good. You're not afraid of the Daikarma ruins. Nie Tian frowned and was speechless. He was very doubtful. Was there really any meaning to such a test? No normal person would destroy their own dragon's vein just to avoid someone. Only those who were greedy for life and afraid of death to the extreme would do such a stupid thing. Old Ancestor Wu Ming's mouth twitched and his expression was a little strange. In fact, he wanted to snatch Nie Tian's dragon's vein just now. But now, he suddenly realized that Nie Tian was really the one who could revive the legend of the Dragon Clan. This feeling was as if someone had suddenly engraved a brand in his spirit. It was incomparably deep. Come with me, Nye Tian. With a faint smile, Patriarch 5 Nether walked towards the cave in the middle of the valley. Nye Tian and Scarlet Life Loyal Heart felt that old ancestor Wuming's change was a little strange. They looked at each other and followed him into the cave. After a while, Nye Tian and the other two arrived at a secret chamber at the side of the cave. Nye Tian looked at the empty secret chamber and asked in confusion, Senior Wuming, why did you bring us here? Don't be anxious. Old ancestor Wuming's lips twitched and revealed a mysterious smile. He then formed a strange seal with both hands and began to release a mysterious dragon's chi. Nye Tian couldn't help but frown when he sensed the aura of the dragon's chi. He felt that there was a very strange aura in the dragon's chi that old ancestor Wuming released. It seemed to be some kind of ancestral dragon's chi, but it was different from ordinary ancestral dragon's chi. Then, a strange scene appeared. The ancestral dragon's chi surged on the stone walls of the secret chamber and slowly seeped into them. Then, fine and dense dragon-shaped runes slowly appeared on the stone walls. This is... Nye Tian's eyes trembled when he saw the dragon-shaped runes. He was so shocked that he was speechless. Chapter 38:15. Brilliance of the Ancestral Dragon. When Nye Tian heard old ancestor Wuming's name, he couldn't help but be shocked. His eyes were filled with excitement. He could sense an extremely powerful aura from the rune-like runes. This kind of power made him feel unimaginably shocked. The runes seemed to contain an endless amount of dragon chi. They were vast and boundless, terrifying to the extreme. After a while, Nye Tian became cold and asked old ancestor Wuming, Senior Wuming, what kind of power is this brilliance of the ancestral dragon? Why is it so terrifying? This power is too terrifying. Among all the powers that I have seen in my life, there are very few that can be compared to it. Scarlet Life Loyal Heart couldn't help but exclaim. In its long life, Scarlet Life Loyal Heart had seen countless strange powers in the world. However, there were very few powers that could be compared to the ancestral dragon tattoo. He was very curious about the power of the ancestral dragon tattoo. How could it be so powerful? The two of you, do you know that the dragon soul can exist for a long time after the death of a member of the dragon clan? Patriarch Wu Nether said with a faint smile. His eyes shone with a scorching light as he glanced at Nye Tian and Patriarch Wu Nether. The dragon soul is indestructible. Nye Tian and old ancestor Wu Ming were stunned at the same time. In the realm world, Nye Tian had heard of the saying that the dragon soul was indestructible. Moreover, he had seen the dragon soul with his own eyes. However, the dragon clan in the realm world was different from the dragon clan in the sacred world. He didn't expect that the dragon soul of the sage realm dragon clan would be indestructible after death. Brother Wu Ming, you mean that these ancestral dragon tattoos are dragon souls? Scarlet Life Loyal Heart narrowed his eyes as he looked at old ancestor Wu Ming. You can say that. However, the ancestral dragon tattoo is not an ordinary dragon soul. Old ancestor Wu Ming smiled and said, the dragon soul is actually a kind of power. It's a dragon crystal formed by the dragon chi after the death of the dragon clan warrior. The strength of the dragon soul is related to the strength of the dragon clan warrior when he was alive. The more powerful the dragon race martial artist, the stronger their dragon soul. As for the ancestral dragon martial artists who possess the mark of the ancestral dragon, their dragon soul is different from ordinary dragon race martial artists. Their dragon chi contains the ancestral dragon chi. After an ancestral dragon martial artist dies, the dragon soul left behind will slowly condense and eventually become the ancestral dragon mark. The brilliance of the ancestral dragon tattoos that we are seeing right now are carved by the ancestral dragon tattoos according to a specific incantation. After saying that, old ancestor Wu Ming's eyes became dazed. Towards these ancestral dragon runes, he maintained a heart of reverence. These runes were all experts in the history of the dragon race. The marks left behind in this world proved that they once existed, and were the proof of the dragon race's past glory. Senior Wu Ming, are you saying that these brilliant ancestral dragon runes were carved with the strongest ancestral dragon runes? Nie Tian was shocked as he looked at Ancestor Wu Ming. Yes. Old Ancestor Wu Ming nodded and said, these brilliant ancestral dragon runes were left behind by the experts that existed in the history of the dragon race. The power contained within them is unimaginable. This. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed, and he immediately took a deep breath. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. He never imagined that these brilliant ancestral dragon runes before him actually came about like this. No wonder the brilliant ancestral dragon runes contain such powerful power. So that's how it is. The Scarlet Life Sacred Heart exclaimed and couldn't help saying, I once heard that the entire all-heaven sacred world was controlled by the dragon race a long time ago. It looks like it's true. These brilliant ancestral dragon runes were enough to prove how powerful the dragon race was in the past. These ancestral dragon martial artists could actually leave behind such powerful power after so many years. It could be seen how terrifying they were when they were alive. After a long while, Nie Tian finally calmed down and asked old ancestor Wu Ming, Senior Wu Ming, why did you bring us to see these? Nie Tian, you're the legendary dragon shepherd of the dragon race. Old ancestor Wu Ming's eyes trembled, and his voice trembled slightly. He said, these brilliant ancestral dragon runes are all yours from now on. All of them are for me? Nie Tian's eyes suddenly narrowed, and he was stunned for a moment. He could sense the boundless power within the brilliant ancestral dragon runes. He obviously knew how powerful these brilliant ancestral dragon runes were. Now that old ancestor Wu Ming had actually given the brilliant ancestral dragon runes to him, how could he not be excited? Yes. Old ancestor Wu Ming nodded heavily with a solemn expression. It seemed that to him, giving the brilliant ancestral dragon runes to Nie Tian was a very important matter. This. Nie Tian reacted, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He hesitated and said, Senior, this doesn't seem appropriate. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Ancestor Wu Ming shook his head and said, you're a dragon shepherd. These glory of the ancestral dragon can help you escape the search of the Daikarma ruins. Really? Nie Tian's eyes trembled as he exclaimed in surprise. He did not expect the ancestral dragon glory to have such an effect. Yes. Ancestor Wu Ming nodded. The Brilliance Ancestral Dragon Rune contains an unimaginable amount of ancestral dragon chi. As long as you absorb and fuse with it, you'll be able to conceal the ancestral dragon chi in your body. Although this method can't completely get rid of the Emperor's Karma ruins, it's absolutely impossible for the Emperor's Karma ruins to find you. It's not easy for me. Nie Tian's eyes were burning and trembling. He couldn't help but nod. Using the glorious ancestral dragon mark's ancestral dragon chi to conceal the ancestral dragon chi was not a bad idea. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart looked at the ancestral dragon rune on the stone wall, and its face was filled with joy. Naturally, Nie Tian was very happy that he could obtain the ancestral dragon glare. This way, Nie Tian would undoubtedly become stronger. After a while, Nie Tian suppressed his excitement and asked with a faint smile, Senior Wu Ming, how do I take these ancestral dragon runes away? That's easy. Ancestor Wu Ming nodded with a smile. An ancient book appeared in his hand and he opened it. Immediately, a wave of energy spread out, and a miraculous scene happened. The ancestral dragon runes on the stone wall surged and merged into the book in Ancestor Wu Ming's hand. Nie Tian and the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart were shocked. After a while, all the ancestral dragon runes flowed into the book like runes. Chapter 38:16. The Book of the Ancestral Dragon. Nie Tian looked at the book in his hand and exclaimed in surprise. Yes. Old Ancestor Wu Ming nodded. The Book of the Ancestral Dragon is one of the 3 books passed down by the Dragon Clan. Rumor has it that it records a great secret of the Dragon Clan. For a long time, the Nether Dragon Clan has been in charge of the Book of the Ancestral Dragon. But the Book of the Ancestral Dragon is very spiritual. Only those who are recognized by the Book Spirit can open it. In the history of the Dragon Clan, the most talented cultivator only managed to open the Book of the Ancestral Dragon to the 7th page. Old Ancestor Wu Ming smiled bitterly as he spoke with a look of pity. He also wanted to know what was recorded in the Book of the Ancestral Dragon, but with his strength, he could only open the book to the 3rd page. Nye Tian, you can try to open the Book of the Ancestral Dragon. After that, Ancestor Wu Ming's gaze turned slightly hot, and it flickered with a strange and blazing light as he spoke with excitement. He was curious and excited at the same time. He wanted to see if the legendary dragon shepherds could open the Book of the Ancestral Dragon. Yes. The corner of Nye Tian's mouth curled up into a smile. He nodded and took a deep breath. With a thought, the Ancestral Dragon Book slowly opened. It's really opened. Old Ancestor Wu Ming's eyes were filled with shock and joy when he saw this. He had already guessed that Nye Tian should be able to open the Book of the Ancestral Dragon. But when this scene really happened, he still felt very shocked. Nye Tian smiled and carefully looked at the Book of the Ancestral Dragon. His eyes shone with a blazing light. The first page of the Book of the Ancestral Dragon was the brilliance of the Ancestral Dragon that old Ancestor Wu Ming had just absorbed. But on the Book of the Ancestral Dragon, the brilliance of the Ancestral Dragon was engraved like runes. They faintly connected to form a strange picture like some kind of totem. Nye Tian wanted to see what the picture was, but when he focused, he found that his consciousness seemed to have fallen into a huge whirlpool, making him feel very uncomfortable. What's going on? Nye Tian couldn't help but frown with a puzzled expression. Nye Tian, with your current strength, it's already very impressive for you to be able to open the first page of the Ancestral Dragon Book. Patriarch Wu Nether looked at Nye Tian and guessed his doubts. He smiled faintly and said, "It's not easy to figure out what the totem on the first page is. Back then, But it took me thousands of years to see this totem clearly." This. Nye Tian was stunned and his face darkened. Spending thousands of years to clearly see a picture was simply too shocking. Nye Tian looked at Patriarch Wu Nether and asked, "Senior Wu Nether, what is this totem?" "I've said it before, the Ancestral Dragon Book is sentient. Every person who activates it will see a different scene." Ancestor Wu Ming smiled. "It's useless even if I tell you what I see. It will only confuse you instead." This. Nye Tian couldn't help but frown upon hearing Patriarch Wu Nether's words, and fell silent again. He didn't expect the Ancestral Dragon Book to be so magical. "All right." Ancestor Wu Ming smiled again. "Nye Tian, the glory of the Ancestral Dragon is already in the book, and you've already opened the first page. You can slowly absorb the power of the runes in the future. But let me remind you, don't try to open the Ancestral Dragon Book before you have enough strength. The second page of the book." "Why?" Nye Tian's eyes narrowed as he blurted out. "You're a dragon shepherd. No one knows what will appear on the second page when you open the Ancestral Dragon Book. Perhaps the Daikarma Ruin will discover your existence." Ancestor Wu Ming's expression sank. "As far as I know, the Daikarma Ruin also has one of the 3 great books of the dragon race. Rumor has it that there's a connection between the 3 great books." "I see." Nye Tian smiled faintly and closed the Ancestral Dragon Book. Ancestor Wu Ming smiled and said to Nye Tian, "Nye Tian, you can try to absorb some glory of the Ancestral Dragon runes now. It will weaken the dragon shepherd chi in your body." Nye Tian nodded and looked at the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. Seeing the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart again, he was most concerned about Mo Rushi and her son. The Scarlet Life Loyal Heart knew what Nye Tian was thinking and nodded. "Don't worry. They're by my side. I'll protect them with my life." "Thank you, Senior Scarlet Life." Nie Tian nodded and bowed to the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. The Crimson Life Loyal Heart chuckled, then said something to Nie Tian and left. He was the president of the Heaven Martial Association after all, so he couldn't leave for too long. Plus, he was injured and needed to go back to heal. Nie Tian didn't ask him to stay. He sent the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart away with ancestor wooming. Nie Tian, it seems like you have other responsibilities besides being a dragon shepherd. Ancestor wooming looked in the direction where the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart left and smiled. He had already guessed that Nie Tian's identity was extraordinary when he heard the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart mention the Star Sacred Lord. Otherwise, considering Nie Tian's strength, he wouldn't have attracted the attention of two peak heavenly martial divine ancestors at the same time. But since Nie Tian didn't say anything, he didn't ask. Besides, he didn't really care. He only needed to know that Nie Tian was a dragon shepherd. That was enough. As for Nie Tian's other identities, it might not be a bad thing. Nie Tian smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Then, he and Ancestor Wooming returned to the cave. Ancestor Wooming asked Nie Tian to enter a secret chamber to absorb the glory of the ancestral dragon pattern. Originally, Nie Tian had planned to leave immediately, as he was still worried about Shuer. He had already done what the Onyx Emperor wanted him to do, but because of the Black Dragon Triad, he was separated from the Onyx Emperor. Now, he had to find the Onyx Emperor as soon as possible. But Ancestor Wooming insisted that he absorb the glory of the ancestral dragon pattern first. He didn't want Nie Tian to attract other unwanted guests after he left the valley. Nie Tian thought about it and finally decided to absorb the glory of the ancestral dragon pattern first. He thought that even though the Onyx Emperor was ruthless, he wouldn't go back on his word. And he couldn't think of any reason why the Onyx Emperor would harm Sher. Hurting Sher wouldn't do the Onyx Emperor any good. The legendary dragon shepherd, how many glory of the ancestral dragon patterns can you absorb? Ancestor Wooming waited outside the secret chamber. He was looking forward to seeing how many glory of the ancestral dragon patterns Nie Tian could absorb when he walked out of the secret chamber. According to his speculation, it would already be very impressive if Nie Tian could completely absorb the power of the first glory of ancestral dragon pattern. Chapter 38:17. 3 days later, in the secret chamber, Nie Tian stood up slowly. His face was pale, and his body was drenched in cold sweat. He looked like he was about to collapse. However, his aura was extremely strange. It was much stronger than a few days ago. His lips curled into a smile and he took a deep breath. A moment later, his expression returned to normal. "I've finally fused 3 ancestral dragon patterns in 3 days," he murmured. His eyes were sharp, but he felt that it was a pity. He originally wanted to use 3 days to fuse 10 ancestral dragon patterns. However, he didn't expect that the ancestral dragon pattern would be so difficult to fuse. The power contained within it was too strong. He only fused 3 ancestral dragon patterns in 3 days. According to Patriarch Wooming, the entire ancestral dragon book was filled with ancestral dragon patterns. Nie Tian had already examined the first page of the Dragon Ancestor book with rapt attention and discovered that there were a total of 999 dragon patterns on it. The ancestral dragon patterns were inscribed with the dragon souls of ancestral dragon warriors. Nie Tian estimated that every ancestral dragon warrior's dragon soul was an ancestral dragon pattern. Therefore, the power of each ancestral dragon pattern was different. There were weak and strong ones. The 3 brilliant ancestral dragon patterns that he had fused with were the weakest of the 999 brilliant ancestral dragon patterns. However, even the 3 weakest ancestral dragon patterns were enough to raise his strength from the 3rd heavenly mandate realm to the 5th heavenly mandate realm. His strength increased once again, increasing Nie Tian's battle strength. However, his greatest improvement was the 9 dragon veins. The power of the ancestral dragon pattern was fused with the 9 dragon veins. At this moment, he could clearly feel that the 9 dragon veins were several times stronger than before. He felt like he was bursting with power. The ancestral dragon pattern is indeed terrifying. It's just 3, but it increased my strength by 2 levels, Nietian murmured with a blazing gaze. He didn't expect the power of the ancestral dragon pattern to be this terrifying. After a while, he walked out of the secret chamber. Nietian, you succeeded in integrating the ancestral dragon rune? Old ancestor Wu Ming asked in pleasant surprise when he saw Nietian. He had not expected that Nietian would only need 3 days to walk out of the secret chamber. Nietian nodded with a confident smile. 3 days. Old ancestor Wu Ming frowned and his eyes couldn't help but tremble. After that, his spiritual sense swept through Nietian's body and his face stiffened. He simply couldn't believe that he could really sense the aura of the ancestral dragon shine in Nietian's body. After the glorious ancestral dragon mark merged with a cultivator, its aura would not completely disappear. It would take some time before it could completely merge and become the cultivator's own strength. 3 days. In just 3 days, Nietian had actually managed to merge with the ancestral dragon shine. This was simply too terrifying. It had completely exceeded old ancestor Wu Ming's expectations. Back then, it took him 3 months to successfully fuse with one glorious ancestral dragon mark. At that time, he was very proud that he had used very little time. But now, compared to Nietian, he was simply trash. Nietian looked at old ancestor Wu Ming and nodded his head. He smiled bitterly. 3 days. Only 3 glorious ancestral dragon marks. Old ancestor Wu Ming nodded his head. Then, he realized that something was wrong. He immediately cried out, "What did you say?" "I said that I only fused with 3 glorious ancestral dragon marks." Nietian smiled bitterly again. He looked a little disappointed. 3 glorious ancestral dragon marks? Patriarch 5 Nether stood rooted to the spot for a few seconds before he finally came to his senses. His voice was trembling as he stared at Nietian in horror, as if he was looking at a monster. Fusing with 3 glorious ancestral dragon marks in 3 days. If Nietian wasn't a monster, what was he? "Senior Wu Ming, are you alright?" Nietian couldn't help frowning when he saw old ancestor Wu Ming's reaction. "Nietian, is that true?" Old ancestor Wu Ming's eyes trembled as he asked in shock. "Of course." Nietian chuckled. Why would he lie about something like this? Old ancestor Wu Ming's eyes trembled again as he carefully sensed Nietian's dragon vein. As expected, he sensed 3 different auras. His face that had just calmed down froze again, and he couldn't say a word for a long time. Nietian frowned. He didn't understand why old ancestor Wu Ming had such a huge reaction. "Senior Wu Ming, thank you for taking care of me these days. I still have something to do and have to leave." Nietian didn't wait for old ancestor Wu Ming's reaction. "You're leaving now?" Old ancestor Wu Ming finally calmed down a little, but he still asked in shock. "Yes." Nietian nodded heavily. He was very worried about Cher and had to leave immediately. Old ancestor Wu Ming could only smile bitterly when he saw Nietian's resolute gaze. He said, "I was originally planning to let Xie leave with you. It looks like it's too late now. Xian Xie is already a human killer star venerate. We will definitely meet again." Nietian smiled faintly and said with certainty, "Yes." Old ancestor Wu Ming knew that he couldn't make Nietian stay, so he could only nod. Following that, Nietian didn't stay for long and left the valley. Old ancestor Wu Ming originally wanted to send him off, but Xiao Chen refused. After what happened earlier, very few people in the 5 underworld sacred world would dare to provoke Nietian. Furthermore, old ancestor Wu Ming was injured and in urgent need of recovery. Nietian didn't want to trouble him anymore. After leaving the valley, Nietian headed for Demon Wind City and entered the Beast Arena. "Lord Nietian, Lord Imofeng has been waiting for you for a long time. This way, please. As soon as Nye Tian entered the beast arena, a black-robed cultivator appeared and spoke respectfully to Nye Tian. Yes. Of course, Nye Tian knew that Imofeng was the netherworld monarch. He nodded and gestured for the black-robed cultivator to lead the way. After a while, Nye Tian arrived outside a hall in the beast arena. Little kid, I was looking for you. I didn't expect you to appear by yourself. Just as Xiao Chen was about to enter the hall, a familiar voice suddenly rang in his spiritual sense, causing him to freeze. This voice belonged to the divine soul within the heart of all evil. Back when Nye Tian wanted to kill the holy son of evil, this divine soul had stopped him and used the holy son of evil's life to make a deal with Nye Tian. As long as Nye Tian didn't kill the holy son of evil, the divine soul would tell Nye Tian one thing. It was just that the matter of the 5 tribulations and the black dragon 3 evils happened later, which made Nye Tian a little busy and he almost forgot about this matter. He didn't expect to encounter this divine soul again in the beast arena of Demon Wind City. Lord Nye Tian, this way, please. At this time, the black-robed cultivator looked at Nye Tian and said with a bow. This person clearly noticed that Nye Tian's expression was a little off. Little kid, you deal with the matter in front of you first. We'll talk about our matter later. The divine soul was considerate and said with a chuckle. Sure, Nye Tian answered, and then directly walked into the hall. The Emperor of the Underworld was sitting in the main hall. His eyes were filled with a deep glint, but his face was very unsightly. Chapter 38:18. Left. Hearing the Emperor of the Underworld's words, Nye Tian's pupils shrank abruptly, and he growled almost instinctively, What do you mean? She has already left, the Emperor of the Underworld said with a gloomy expression, his eyes darkening slightly. Impossible! Nye Tian's face darkened and he said cold, Cher hasn't seen me yet. She won't leave. She really wants to see you before leaving, but someone disagrees, the Emperor of the Underworld said gravely after a few seconds of silence. Speak clearly. Nye Tian's face darkened suddenly, and he yelled cold in a low voice. She was taken away by that traitor, the Emperor of the Underworld said gravely. Blazing flames of the 9 blades. Nye Tian's pupils shrank again, and he uttered the name word by word. His eyes instantly became murderous, with a touch of dark red, like a ferocious beast that was about to go berserk. The Emperor of the Underworld nodded solemnly, and he said nothing more. What about you? Suddenly, Nye Tian's figure moved abruptly, and he stretched out one hand. An invisible force whizzed out and lifted the Emperor of the Underworld into the air. It was as if an invisible giant hand had clamped down on the Emperor of the Underworld's neck. Nye Tian, you. The Emperor of the Underworld's face was flushed with blood, and his eyes were filled with terror. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't utter a word. The invisible hand seemed to have a tremendous force, making it difficult for him to breathe. He didn't expect Nye Tian's strength to have improved to such an extent in just a few days' time. Although Nye Tian had attacked instantly, he shouldn't have been suppressed to the point where he couldn't fight back. What had Nye Tian experienced in the past few days? Lord Demon Edge. At this moment, a dozen black-robed figures appeared in the surrounding void, and they cried out at the same time, but they stopped, not daring to move forward. Back off, back off. The Emperor of the Underworld waved his hand with difficulty, resisting the excruciating pain. Of course, he could feel that Nye Tian's killing intent was extremely heavy at this moment. If these black-clothed men dared to come forward, Nye Tian would absolutely not hesitate to kill them. Nye Tian, don't be impulsive, the Underworld Emperor said with difficulty, his face red. We agreed that I would help you get the power of the 5 calamities, and you would let Cher go. Nye Tian's eyes were cold and murderous. He said cold, now where is Cher? No sooner had he said this than Jing Jiu clenched his fist in the air. The Underworld Emperor felt suffocated. At this moment, as long as Nye Tian exerted a little more force, he would be able to kill the Emperor of the Underworld. I know where they have gone, the Underworld Emperor said with all his might, his eyes trembling. Nye Tian's eyes suddenly darkened. The strength in his hand weakened a little as he asked in a deep voice, "Where did they go?" "The illusory Civ realm," the Underworld Emperor said, a name with trembling eyes. "Speak clearly," Nye Tian said cold, his eyes dark and murderous. "The illusory Civ realm is the ancestral land of the three-life race. They are going there to find something." The Underworld Emperor felt the pressure lessen. His expression relaxed, and he became much calmer. The ancestral land of the three-life race. Nye Tian's eyes darkened slightly, and a strange light flashed through them. It seemed that Lai Yin Jiufeng had said something to Cher, or Cher would not have left without saying goodbye. Of course, he could not rule out the possibility that Cher had been threatened when she left with Lai Yin Jiufeng. However, with Cher's personality, it was unlikely that she would be threatened. "Do you know what they are looking for?" Nye Tian became much colder. He looked at the Underworld Emperor and asked. "I don't know." The Underworld Emperor shook his head. Lai Yin Jiufeng had come in a very domineering manner. There was no way he would tell him what they were looking for. "Then do you know how to get to the illusory Civ realm?" Nye Tian asked cold with a much darker gaze. The Underworld Emperor's expression froze slightly. A strange expression appeared on his face. He said, "Nye Tian, Lai Yin Jiufeng knew that you would come. He told me to tell you not to look for them. Even if you did, you would not be able to find them." "Why didn't Lai Yin Jiufeng kill you back then?" Nye Tian asked cold with a dark expression. He was really curious why Lai Yin Jiufeng did not kill the Underworld Emperor directly after coming to Demon Wind City. Did he not want the heaven-punishing demon heart in the Underworld Emperor's body? He naturally has his reasons for not killing me. The Underworld Emperor's eyes trembled. He said, "I advise you not to go to the illusory Civ realm." "I must go to the illusory Civ realm," Nye Tian said cold with a dark expression, "and you must tell me how to find Lai Yin Jiufeng." Nye Tian, the illusory Civ realm, may only be a middle-rank sacred world, but its territory is extremely vast. The three-life races' ancestral grounds are located in an extremely remote place. Even if you go to the illusory Civ realm, you will not be able to find the three-life races' ancestral grounds. The Underworld Emperor's expression was ugly. Nye Tian was making things difficult for him. "Didn't you kill everyone from the three-life race back then? If you say that you do not know where the three-life races' ancestral grounds are, do you think I will believe you?" Nye Tian's expression was dark, and his eyes flickered with cold, killing intent. His gaze was cold and murderous. It was filled with a strong sense of threat. The Underworld Emperor could feel Nye Tian's killing intent. His pupils contracted involuntarily. He could not hide his fear. He had already witnessed Nye Tian's terror. With his strength, he could kill him in an instant. Qin City's Mu clan. After a moment of silence, the Underworld Emperor finally spoke. "After you reach the illusory Civ realm, find this clan. They will tell you where the three-life races' ancestral grounds are." Qin City's Mu clan. Nye Tian's gaze trembled slightly. He was somewhat worried. "I can only tell you this much. Also, I cannot guarantee that the Qin City's Mu clan will still exist after so much time has passed." The Underworld Emperor knew what Nye Tian was worried about. He said, "If you still want to kill me now, then do it. But let me warn you. If you kill me, you can forget about leaving the demonic Wind City." Nye Tian's expression was gloomy. After a long time, he turned and left. The Underworld Emperor looked at Nye Tian's back. His tense nerves immediately relaxed. At this moment, over a dozen black-clothed cultivators appeared behind him. One of them took a step forward and said coldly, "Lord Mo Feng, do you want to kill this brat? Let him go." The Underworld Emperor smiled and waved his hand slightly. He wanted to kill Nye Tian very much. However, he did not dare to. Disregarding whether or not there were experts hiding around Nie Tian right now, just Nie Tian's identity made him very wary. He even doubted if these cultivators before him had the ability to kill Nie Tian. There were too many secrets about Nie Tian that he didn't know. Killing Nie Tian at this time was definitely not a wise choice. Moreover, the Underworld Emperor had another plan in mind. He wanted to borrow Nie Tian's hand to eliminate Lai Yin Jiufeng. However, he felt that Nie Tian's trip to the illusory Civ realm this time was likely to be fruitless. Chapter 38-19. After leaving the Colosseum, Nie Tian headed straight for the Sacred World Net in the Demon Wind City. He wanted to go to the Void Net realm immediately. Kid, you're in such a hurry. Don't tell me you're leaving the 5 Underworld Sacred World? At that moment, the divine soul within the heart of evil spoke again with a hint of mockery in its tone. Speak. What do you want to tell me? Nie Tian could not be bothered to talk nonsense with him. Why are you in such a hurry? Looks like you're leaving. The divine soul laughed and said regretfully, This is the first time I've seen such an interesting kid like you. I really can't bear to part with you so soon. Nie Tian frowned and could not help but feel speechless. He had not come into contact with the divine soul at all, so the latter's words were really strange. Kid, are you going to another saint's world? Afterwards, the soul smiled again and asked curiously. All right, let's go to the Sacred World Internet Net first. I'll explain it to you in detail when we get there. The divine soul chuckled mysteriously. Nie Tian frowned and thought for a moment before heading straight for the Sacred World Net. About half an hour later, he arrived at the Demon Wind City's Sacred World Net. Because he had a conflict with the martialists guarding the Sacred World Net before, he was afraid of causing unnecessary misunderstandings, so he simply changed his appearance. Spacetime scar. It's this feeling again. When he arrived outside the Sacred World Net, Nie Tian looked at the floating light spheres in the Sacred World Net and thought to himself. Those light spheres were the connection points of the Sacred World Net, called Spacetime Scar. Every time Nie Tian saw a spacetime scar, he would have a strange feeling. The 4th star mark in his body seemed to be affected by the spacetime scar. It slowly became violent and released a terrifying impact. The impact made his body feel like it was being torn apart and burned. Although Nie Tian's martial body was much stronger now, he could not help but turn pale when he faced the stimulation of the spacetime scar. Sweat the size of beans seeped out of his forehead. Little fella, looks like you have a reaction. At this time, the voice of the soul rang again. It chuckled and seemed very proud of itself. You know what's going on? Nie Tian's eyes darkened and his expression changed as he exclaimed. This divine soul wasn't surprised at all. This meant that he already knew that Nie Tian would have such a reaction. In fact, he was waiting for this reaction from Nie Tian. Don't worry, the secret I want to tell you is about the 4th star scar dark seal in your body. The godly soul said with a strange smile. You know of the Starstreak dark seal? Nie Tian's eyes couldn't help but tremble. He was astounded and extremely shocked. He did not expect that this divine soul would know about the Star Scar Dark Seal, and would even specifically mention the 4th Star Scar Dark Seal. At this moment, Nie Tian had unsealed the 4th Star Mark Dark Seal. Don't be surprised. I've lived for so long. It's not strange that I know some things about the Star Origin Stone. The divine soul did not seem to care. He smiled and said, Little fella, you're so young, but you can actually unseal the 3rd Star Mark Dark Seal with the Star Origin Stone. Who the hell are you? Nie Tian's face turned incomparably gloomy. His eyes trembled as he roared. This person's understanding of the Star Origin Stone was far beyond his expectations. After all, even the Star Lords and the Star Envoys did not have such an understanding of the Star Origin Stone. Nie Tian wanted to know who this divine soul was. You don't have to worry about who I am. All you need to do is listen to what I'm going to say next. The divine soul was still relaxed. He smiled faintly and said, "The key to unsealing the fourth star-marked dark seal is the space-time scar. However, the space-time scar of the net of the Saints' world is too weak. You need to find a more powerful space-time scar. After absorbing it, you can unseal the fourth star-marked dark seal." Nie Tion's face darkened. He frowned deeply. It turned out that this was what the Divine Soul wanted to tell him. Previously, he had a special reaction to the space-time scar. He had already guessed that the space-time scar might be related to unsealing the fourth star-marked dark seal. However, the confirmation of this guess came from the mouth of a person he did not know at all. He did not expect this. "Little fella, your strength has improved a lot during this time. The speed of your growth has exceeded my expectations. However, your martial body can perfectly accept the increase in strength. This is good news for you." Following that, the Divine Soul laughed and said, "I believe that you will definitely find a more powerful space-time scar. I look forward to your growth, space-time scar." Nie Tion's face was grim, and his eyes were trembling. At this moment, he felt like he was being manipulated. He had no idea who the other party was, but the other party seemed to know him very well. This gap in understanding made him feel vaguely uneasy. "Little fella, I will take my leave. We will definitely meet again. The next time we meet, I will give you an even bigger surprise." The voice of the Divine Soul sounded again and then disappeared completely. Astonishment filled Nie Tion's face as he stood rooted to the ground for a long time. Who is this fella? What is his relationship with the Star Origin Stone? After a long time, Nie Tion calmed down slightly. He could not help but feel puzzled. At this moment, he had a guess in his mind, but he did not want to face it. He suspected that this Divine Soul might be the previous Star Sky Sacred Leader, Dongwang Jingrong. However, he did not dare to continue guessing. Subconsciously, he rejected this guess. In the 5 Underworld Sacred World, he had already met 2 people who could be Dongwang Jingrong. The first was the mysterious person who had secretly helped him. The second was the Divine Soul that had just left. He even suspected that the mysterious person and the Divine Soul were the same person. However, a guess was just a guess. If he thought about it carefully, such a guess was somewhat unrealistic. After a while, Nie Tion let out a long breath and stopped thinking about these things. Right now, the most important thing in front of him was to go to the virtual sky realm and look for Cher. After a few hours, Nie Tion entered the net of the sacred world. He arrived outside a space-time tunnel and stepped in. When he stepped out again, the world in front of him was completely different. He looked around and realized that he was in a mountain range surrounded by huge thorny trees. "Looks like this is the virtual sky realm." Nie Tion smiled faintly and felt much more relaxed. Chapter 38:20. When Nie Tion heard the cry for help, his figure instantly moved and whistled toward a forest. At the same time, an unbearable scene was taking place in a forest. Several men in black were forcefully tearing apart the clothes of a woman. The person who was crying for help was this woman. "Fong Hu, if you dare touch my sister, I'll fight it out with you." On the other side, a low growl that still carried a hint of childishness rang out. A small figure appeared and directly charged towards the men in black. The figure was a child around 10 years old. Although he was small, his eyes were extremely fierce like a wild wolf. "Get lost!" When one of the men saw the child rushing over, he turned around and waved his hand. A gust of wind swept over and directly sent the child flying. The child heavily crashed into a huge tree several meters thick, abruptly smashing the huge tree in half. Although the child was stubborn, he was still young and weak. After breaking the huge tree, he lay on the ground and couldn't get up. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were even fiercer. He crawled on the ground with both hands and approached the men in black as if he was going to eat them. However, his reaction caused the black-clothed men to become even more arrogant, and they began to laugh maniacally. Ha ha, this little bastard has some guts. He even wants to crawl over. Let's just kill this kid. It won't be good if he returns alive and spouts nonsense in the village. He's the son of the village chief. I'm afraid it won't be good to just kill him. The men laughed as they discussed. In the end, they stopped looking at the child and focused their attention on the woman. Xiao Fei, hurry up and leave. Don't worry about me. The woman screamed when she saw her brother being beaten up. Her eyes were filled with despair. You bastards, how dare you hurt my sister? If my father finds out, he won't let you off. The child didn't leave. Instead, he crawled and yelled. Little bastard, your sister will be sent away tomorrow anyway. Before she leaves, let us enjoy her first. What's wrong with that? One of the men chuckled and extended his pig hand toward the woman. Fang Hu, my father won't let you off. The woman screamed and instinctively backed away. However, she fell to the ground. When the men in black saw this, they immediately pounced forward. Stop! But right at this moment, a low and icy cold voice resounded, and it was ghastly to the extreme and revealed resolute and murderous intent. The men were stunned. They immediately turned around and saw a silver-haired man standing there like a sharp blade, exuding a strong killing intent. Where did this stinking brat come from? How dare he spoil my good? One of them reacted and growled. However, he only managed to finish half of his sentence before he stopped abruptly. He instinctively touched his neck, but his head fell to the ground. When the others saw this scene, they were instantly dumbfounded and speechless. They didn't even see when the silver-haired man made his move. There wasn't even the slightest fluctuation in the air. Without a doubt, the silver-haired man was too strong, so strong that they could not even imagine it. This silver-haired man was none other than Ye Tian. At this moment, his face was filled with killing intent as he slowly walked toward the men. With every step he took, the murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. What are you trying to do? The men were so scared that their faces turned pale. Their legs turned to jelly as they trembled, and they were about to fall to their knees. Scum who's worse than animals, Nie Tianling said coldly. His killing intent seemed to have solidified and shrouded the men so tightly that they felt like they were suffocating. The men wanted to say something, but they suddenly felt a cold aura flowing around their bodies. They lowered their heads and saw their bodies falling to the ground in pieces. Nie Tian had used his sword intent to dismember these men while they were still alive. In an instant, the men turned into pieces of flesh and blood that fell to the ground. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The men's heads were even blinking as they stared at their own bodies in despair. The heads will live for a period of time after they leave their bodies. I hope you'll enjoy this final moment of despair, Nie Tianling said coldly. His entire being was so cold that it sent chills down one's spine. When the woman saw this, she was so frightened that she fainted. Nie Tian's lips twitched. Then, a ball of flame surged out from his palm and incinerated the corpses in front of him. Then, he took a step forward and confirmed the woman's aura. After making sure that she was fine, he was about to leave. He did not want to waste any more time. He believed that the woman would return home on her own after she woke up. Yes, benefactor. However, at that moment, a young voice was heard behind him. Nie Tian's gaze froze and he immediately looked behind him. The child had stood up and was looking at him gratefully. The child was not frightened after witnessing the bloody scene. Instead, he was so calm that Nie Tian could not help but be surprised. He had already sensed that the child had suffered some flesh injuries, but they were not fatal. He would recover after resting for a period of time. Therefore, he decided to leave. Little fellow, what's your name? Nie Tian looked at the child and asked with a faint smile. Benefactor, my name is Mu Yang. Mu Chen looked at Nie Tian and couldn't help but laugh. Mu! When Nie Tian heard the surname Mu, his pupils constricted, and his heart trembled. It can't be such a coincidence, right? When he came to the virtual Luo realm, the first place he wanted to look for was the Mu clan in Qin City. At this moment, a child with the surname Mu appeared before him, and he had no choice but to pay attention to it. Mu Chun, do you know about Qin City? Nie Tian became cold and probed. Qin City? What place is that? Mu Chun frowned, and his little face was filled with confusion. It doesn't seem like it. Nie Tian's lips twitched and he smiled bitterly. Benefactor, are you going to Qin City? Go back with me and ask my father. He will definitely know where Qin City is. Mu Chen was very smart and he smiled slyly. Nie Tian turned to look at the woman behind him. He thought for a moment and nodded in the end. He planned to send the Mu siblings home. It wouldn't take up much time anyway, and he could ask Mu Chen's father about Qin City. Perhaps Mu Chen's family was really related to the Mu clan in Qin City. After making up his mind, Nie Tian lifted the woman up with his hand, and he let the little fellow lead the way with Mu Chun. Chapter 38:21. Nie Tian looked at the martial artists around him. His lips twitched slightly, but his face was calm. Most of these people were false saints. There were only a few holy disciples, and they were all low-level holy disciples. Although this was a medium sacred world, it did not mean that everyone could reach the saint realm. Who are you? At this moment, one of the older cultivators stepped forward and sized up Nie Tian. He asked in a very vigilant manner, appearing to be a little nervous. He had clearly sensed that Nie Tian was very strong. In front of him, he was unfathomably strong. Don't be nervous. I'm just passing by. Nie Tian replied with a faint smile, trying his best to let these people relax. That person's eyes were slightly trembling. He had a suspicious look on his face. Obviously, he did not believe Nie Tian. Uncle Deng, don't be afraid. This big brother is my sister's benefactor. He saved us. At this moment, Mu Chun stepped forward and said to that person, Benefactor. That person was stunned for a moment. He then looked at Mu Chun and said, Mu Chun, tell me clearly, what is going on? Mu Chun chuckled and recounted the events that had transpired earlier. It turned out that the few men who wanted to harm Mu Chun and his sister were from Fang Village, which was next to Iron Mountain Village. Unfortunately, they bumped into Nie Tian when they were doing their evil deeds. Those people from Fang Village are insane. Uncle Deng's eyes were filled with rage after hearing Mu Chen's words, and he bellowed in a deep voice. The Iron Mountain Village and Fang Village were neighboring villages. There would occasionally be some friction between the two villages. However, it was the first time something as bad as this had happened. Those young men from Fang Village deserved to die. Sigh, it's all because of the Mu clan's grand elder. Uncle Deng sighed helplessly. He then looked at Nie Tian and said, Young master, let me bring you to see the village chief. Okay. Nie Tian nodded. He was very interested in the Mu clan's grand elder that Uncle Deng mentioned. A moment later, under Uncle Deng's lead, Nie Tian arrived at a small courtyard in the Iron Mountain Village and met Mu Chen's father, the village chief, Mu Yunshan. Mu Yunshan looked to be in his 30s, but his facial features were cold, giving off a sense of vicissitude. After hearing Mu Chen's words, Mu Yunshan hastily bowed towards Nie Tian, looking very sincere. Many thanks, little brother. It was nothing, Nie Tian said with a faint smile, his face calm and unperturbed. After exchanging some pleasantries, Nie Tian no longer stood on ceremony and directly asked, Village chief, I'd like to ask if you know the Mu clan of Qin City? Qin City's Mu clan? Mu Yunshan's eyes could not help but tremble when he heard those words. He seemed extremely surprised. Nie Tian's heart trembled when he saw Mu Yunshan's reaction. Mu Yunshan's reaction clearly showed that he knew about the Qin City's Mu family. I've never heard of it. Mu Yunshan immediately shook his head and denied it. You've never heard of it? Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and his expression turned ugly. No. Mu Yunshan shook his head again with a firm expression. Nie Tian was a little disappointed when he saw Mu Yunshan's reaction, but he could not force him. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave. Nie Tian pondered for a moment and prepared to leave for the nearest city. Benefactor, please don't go. Please save my sister. However, at this time, Mu Chen suddenly walked over and looked at Nie Tian with a pair of watery eyes, imploring him. Nie Tian was stunned for a moment before he smiled. Mu Chen, isn't your sister fine? Why do you want to save her? My sister will be sent to the Mu abode tomorrow. Only Benefactor can save her. Mu Chen raised his head and looked at Nie Tian with a serious expression. Mu abode? Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and his expression changed. Mu Chen. However, Mu Chen still wanted to say something, but he was stopped by Mu Yunshan's growl. Mu Yunshan stood up and squeezed out a smile. Brother, it's just a kid's nonsense. Don't mind it. I'm not talking nonsense. My sister will be taken away tomorrow. I won't be able to see her again. Mu Chen did not let it go and shouted. Mu Chen, don't say any more. Mu Yunshan's expression suddenly changed and he growled. Mu Chen had a wronged expression. He wanted to say something but did not dare to. Tears immediately flowed down his face. Sigh. Mu Yunshan looked at Mu Chen and sighed helplessly. Village chief, if you have any difficulties, you can tell me. I'll definitely help you if I can. Nie Tian frowned and looked at Mu Yunshan. In fact, he hoped that Mu Yunshan would tell him about the difficulties he was facing so that he could continue to inquire about the Mu clan in Qin City. Sigh. Mu Yunshan sighed again and finally said it. It turned out that the closest city to the Iron Mountain village was called Nine Changes City. There were 3 major clans in Nine Changes City, and the Mu abode that Mu Chen mentioned was one of them, the Mu clan. All the villages within 10,000 miles of Nine Changes City were controlled by the 3 major clans. Tomorrow, the eldest Missy of the Mu abode would be married to the 3rd young master of the Yi clan. The Mu clan would recruit the eldest Missy of the Mu clan to be her dowry servants. Unfortunately, the Iron Mountain village was chosen and had to offer 3 dowry servants. As the village chief, Mu Yunshan had no choice but to offer his daughter as a dowry servant to the eldest Missy of the Mu clan. The so-called dowry servants were actually slaves. To put it bluntly, they were servants that the bride gave to the groom. For a major clan like the Yi clan, once they entered, they would never be able to step out of the Yi clan for the rest of their lives. This was the predicament that Mu Yunshan was facing, and it was also the source of his pain. When Nie Tian heard Mu Yunshan's words, he couldn't help knitting his brows and asked, Village chief, how many people does the Mu abode need as a dowry? A few hundred. Mu Yunshan sighed with a helpless expression. Nie Tian knitted his brows and a cold smile rose on the corner of his lip. A Missy actually needs a few hundred dowry servants? This Mu abode is truly extravagant. Sigh. Mu Yunshan let out another long sigh. I have no other choice. Village chief, I'll accompany Miss Mu to the Nine Changes City tomorrow. I would like to see what the Mu abode and Yi clan are like. At this moment, Nie Tian faintly smiled. Chapter 38:22. Sensing the confidence in Nie Tian's eyes, Mu Yunshan couldn't help but shudder. He didn't know why the silver-haired young man was so confident, but he knew that Nie Tian was his only hope to save his daughter. Mu Yunshan calmed down and asked Nie Tian cautiously, Little brother, may I ask what level of cultivation you are at now? As a matter of fact, he had been secretly sensing Nie Tian's strength the moment he had shown up, hoping to find out how strong he was now. However, it was a pity that he wasn't strong enough to determine Nie Tian's cultivation base. Heavenly Mandate Realm, Nie Tian said with a faint smile, knowing that Mu Yunshan was worried that he wasn't strong enough. Hearing Nie Tian's answer, Mu Yunshan couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, Heaven's warning. He didn't expect Nie Tian to be at the Heavenly Mandate Realm at such a young age. There were only a few in the entire virtual Luo realm who had such cultivation at such a young age. Without a doubt, Nie Tian was a super martial arts prodigy. But the next moment, Mu Yunshan's face darkened, and he said worriedly, "Little brother, your strength is indeed amazing, but there are many heavenly mandate Saint Masters in the Mu residence and the Yi residence, including many Saint Lord Tianyi. I'm afraid, don't worry. As long as I'm here, Miss Mu will be here," Nie Tian said without waiting for Mu Yunshan to finish. Mu Yunshan was stunned by Nie Tian's aura. He only reacted after a long while and nodded heavily. At this time, he could only choose to believe in Nie Tian. Nie Tian smiled and didn't say anything else. "Little brother." At this moment, Mu Yunshan suddenly spoke. After a brief hesitation, he said, "The Mu clan of the Qin city that you've asked about should be related to the Mu abode of the Nine Transformation City. Perhaps you can ask the patriarch of the Mu clan." Nie Tian took a glance at Mu Yunshan and smiled faintly. "Many thanks." He guessed that Mu Yunshan might be related to the Mu clan, but the latter didn't want to say it. After that, Nie Tian stayed at Moon Mountain's house for the night. The next morning, he walked out of his room and saw that Mu Yu and Mu Chen were already waiting for him. "Benefactor, you're up." Mu Chen was very excited to see Nie Tian. "My name is Nie Tian, just call me by my name." Nie Tian smiled faintly and rubbed Mu Chen's little head. And at this instant, he suddenly felt a strange aura sweep past, causing his entire body to tremble inexplicably. What was going on? The sudden change made Nie Tian frown and his eyes narrowed. "Nie Tian, there's something strange about this little guy." At this moment, the fat cat's voice rang out. Nie Tian frowned and nodded. However, the fat cat didn't continue. It was probably because she couldn't tell what was so special about Mu Chen. "Mr. Nie Tian." At this moment, Mu Yunshan also came out and greeted Nie Tian warmly. Nie Tian smiled faintly as a response. Then, the other two ladies were also sent over, accompanied by 3 young men. 3 dowry attendants and 4 guards. These were the people who were going to Nine Changes City next. Mu Yunshan warned Nie Tian and the rest about some things, then quietly waited for the people of the Mu clan to arrive. About half an hour later, 2 martial artists in black appeared. They were the people of the Mu clan. Nie Tian sized them up. They were both holy disciples in the 9th heavenly charm stage, so they weren't worth mentioning in his eyes. The 2 martial artists confirmed that Mu Yu and the other 2 ladies were here, then glanced at Nie Tian and the rest. They didn't wait any longer and directly left with everyone. "I want to go too." At this moment, Mu Chen suddenly shouted and ran over. "Mu Chen!" Mu Yunshan was startled by Mu Chen's sudden action. His eyes trembled and he exclaimed. Mu Yu and the rest didn't know how dangerous this trip would be. He had already lost a daughter, so he naturally didn't want to lose a son. However, Mu Chen was very persistent and didn't let go of Mu Yu's hand. "Let him follow," one of the guards of the Mu clan said coldly. He clearly didn't want to waste time. Mu Yunshan's face sank. Just when he wanted to go and pull Mu Chen back, he was stopped by Nie Tian. "Don't worry, I will take good care of him." Nie Tian smiled faintly with a calm expression. Mu Yunshan was stunned for a moment. At this moment, Mu Yu and the rest had already started to leave. Nie Tian slightly nodded and followed. Mu Yunshan looked at the figures of Nie Tian and the rest with an extremely ugly expression. He couldn't react for a long time. After Nie Tian and the rest left the Iron Mountain village, they headed for the Nine Transformation City. The Iron Mountain village wasn't far from the Nine Transformation City. Roughly an hour later, they arrived outside the Nine Transformation City. Even before entering the city, Nie Tian could already see countless colorful flags fluttering in the air above the city. The city was filled with the sound of gongs and drums. "Let's go," the 2 guards of the Mu abode said coldly as they brought Nie Tian and the rest into the city. A brief moment later, Nie Tian and the rest entered the Nine Transformation City. After entering the city, he finally realized how bustling the Nine Transformation City was. The wide streets were decorated with lanterns, and everyone had smiles on their faces, as if they were going to welcome some sort of victory. Nye Tian was speechless. He really had no idea that there was a need for such a huge commotion when getting married. Thereafter, Nye Tian and the rest were led by the Mu Abode's guards towards the Mu Abode. On the way, they encountered the dowry servants that the Mu Abode had brought over. He had to admit that Mu Yunshan had underestimated the Mu Abode. Along the way, Nye Tian had encountered hundreds of dowry servants. Thus, he could tell that the total number of dowry servants wouldn't be just a few hundred. There might even be thousands of them. Marrying a person, but having thousands of dowry servants? That was simply too ridiculous. It was as if only the Missy of the Mu clan was human, and the dowry servants weren't. "I'm not going. I don't want to be a dowry." At that moment, a scream rang out. Then, a silhouette dashed towards the crowd. Nye Tian's brow furrowed as he realized that one of the dowry attendants had run away. Courting death. In the next moment, a deep voice resounded as a black-clothed cultivator appeared and threw a palm towards the fleeing woman. Instantly, a whistling sound resounded in the air along with a powerful pressure. That black-clothed cultivator wasn't trying to stop the woman, but to kill her. Chapter 38:23. Boom! The martial artist in black roared angrily. His aura burst out like a raging wave, causing the surrounding space to tremble. An enormous force appeared in the void and pushed the surrounding crowd back. He was a martial artist from the Mu family. In Nine Changes City, no one dared to oppose the Mu family. Especially today, it was the wedding day of the Mu family's eldest lady. It was of great significance to the Mu family and the entire Nine Changes City. It was the Mu family's honor for these attendants to be part of the Mu family's eldest lady's dowry. Yet they dared to escape. This was simply courting death. What angered him even more was that someone dared to stop him when he was about to kill someone. This was simply a provocation to the Mu family. He suddenly turned around and saw a silver-haired martial artist with an indifferent expression. This made him even angrier. His eyes trembled and surged with violent flames like a berserk beast. "Brat, how dare you attack me?" His eyes were gloomy and murderous as he spoke coldly. Every word he said was filled with murderous intent. As far as he was concerned, Nye Tian was already a corpse. In Nine Changes City, attacking a martial artist from the Mu family meant that one had no chance of survival. At this moment, everyone looked at Nye Tian with trembling eyes and horrified expressions. They began to discuss among themselves. Who is this brat? How dare he attack a martial artist from the Mu family? Yeah, today is the wedding day of the Mu family's eldest lady and the Yi family's third young master. If this brat dares to cause trouble here, isn't he provoking both the Mu family and the Yi family at the same time? An unknown brat dares to attack a martial artist from the Mu family. He's dead meat. As the crowd spoke, they looked at Nye Tian with strange gazes, as if they were looking at a corpse. Mu Yu and Mu Chen stared at Nye Tian in a daze. They were obviously scared out of their wit. They didn't expect that Nye Tian would attack at this moment. However, Nye Tian's expression was very calm and indifferent. He looked at the martial artist from the Mu family in front of him, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He said, "She was only trying to escape. With your strength, you could have stopped her. Why did you kill her? Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to interfere in the Mu family's affairs?" That cultivator roared. Clearly, he did not care about Nye Tian at all. He took a step forward and his aura surged out crazily. Like a raging wave, it rumbled and pressed towards Nye Tian. Nye Tian stood where he was like an immovable mountain. Soft sword intent surged around his body. When that person's pressure approached him, it was easily dissolved. The martial artist was startled by the scene in front of him. His expression suddenly changed, and he couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Clearly, he hadn't expected Nye Tian to be so strong. At this moment, No matter how stupid he was, he already knew that Nietion's strength was far above his. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be impulsive. Otherwise, you'll be the one to regret it. A faint smile hung at the corner of Nietion's mouth as he looked at the man. However, his eyes were filled with a hidden threat. This cultivator was only in the 9th stage of heavenly charm and couldn't fight back at all. If he wanted to, he could kill this person right away. However, he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. After all, this person was from the Mu family. He didn't want to have a conflict with the Mu family. Who are you? The cultivator's expression was extremely gloomy. It was obvious that he was feeling suppressed. I just don't like you killing people. Nietion smiled. As long as you don't kill her, I'll pretend nothing happened. The man's eyes were gloomy as he stared at Nietion. After a long silence, his expression slightly changed. Kid, this is your first time in Nine Changes City, right? So what if I am? Nietion smiled and retorted. You still don't know who I am, right? The man's lips curled into a sinister smile. His eyes were filled with menace. You are a cultivator from the Mu family. The Mu family is one of the 3 major families in Nine Changes City. Today is the wedding day of the eldest daughter of the Mu family and the 3rd young master of the Yi family. Nietion obviously understood what the man meant. You. The man's eyes trembled violently as he said in a deep voice, Brat, since you know who I am, you still dare to attack me. Do you know that you are provoking the Mu clan and the entire Nine Changes City? Nietion frowned and his eyes were filled with coldness. You can say that if you want, I don't care. You don't care? The man's eyes trembled again after hearing Nietion's words. His expression became extremely gloomy. Nietion's answer was a blatant provocation to the Mu family. He was ignoring their authority in Nine Changes City. I just don't care. Nietion smiled, the corner of his mouth curling up into a cold, disdainful smile. You're courting death. The man's eyes suddenly darkened and revealed a cold, murderous intent. He said, You have no idea what the Mu family means in Nine Changes City. Now, I'll give you a chance to live, as long as you kill the dowry attendant who escaped and kowtow to me as an apology. Then I will consider sparing your life. Sparing my life? Nietion's lips curled into a smile and he said, What will you do if I don't do as you say? I will kill you. The man's eyes darkened and revealed his murderous intent. He knew that his strength was far from being a match for Nietion, but he was relying on the Mu family behind him. He did not believe that Nietion would dare to do anything to him. After all, he was a member of the Mu family and they were in Nine Changes City. No matter how arrogant Nietion was, he would not dare to kill him in Nine Changes City. Kill me! Nietion chuckled. His eyes flickered slightly as he said, You can try. Brat, this is Nine Changes City. Think carefully. The man smiled cold and his eyes flickered with a threatening intent. Is that so? Nietion sneered. Then, he took a step forward and stretched out his hand. Before the man could react, Nietion's hand clamped down on the latter's neck. What are you doing? That person screamed in fright. His eyes trembled, and his eyeballs rolled back and forth, as if they were about to be squeezed out of their sockets. He did not expect Nietion to suddenly attack him. Are you threatening me? A trace of killing intent appeared at the corner of Nietion's mouth. He sneered and said, I'm strangling you now. Do you still dare to be arrogant in front of me? Brat, you dare to touch a member of the Mu family? You're dead. The man's face turned pale and a strange red color appeared on his face as he threatened Nietion. I'll give you one more chance to speak. Don't make a mistake. Nietion's eyes were extremely gloomy and cold. Chapter 38:24. Speak. Nietion's gaze was cold as he stared at that person. I'm wrong. That person's eyes trembled before he immediately said, Nothing happened. Nothing happened. I didn't do anything, and I didn't see anything. An arc rose on the corner of Nye Tion's lips as he loosened his grip and smiled. A cultivator of the Mu clan is truly courageous. Thank you for not killing me. That person felt his neck being loosened and the shock on his face slowly recovered. As he spoke, he subconsciously took a few steps back and did not dare to approach Nye Tion. At this moment, Nye Tion was akin to a demon to him. That's more like it. Nye Tion smiled before he turned around and no longer bothered with that person. At this moment, everyone looked at Nye Tion with a weird gaze. Their eyes were trembling as if they wanted to say something, but they couldn't. They never expected that Nye Tion would be so ferocious to the point that he did not even place a cultivator of the Mu clan in his eyes. Humiliating a cultivator of the Mu clan in front of so many people, Nye Tion had truly violated a great taboo in the Nine Changes city. However, Nye Tion didn't seem to care. It was as if the Mu clan wasn't even worth mentioning in his eyes. Indeed, Nye Tion did not place the Mu clan in his eyes. After experiencing so much, a clan from a small city in the intermediate sacred world did not pose any threat to him. That person looked at Nye Tion with dense fear in his eyes. He no longer dared to offend Nye Tion. The storm had ended just like that, and no one had expected it to end. Thereafter, Nye Tion and the rest continued their journey towards the Mu abode. Not long after, they arrived outside the Mu abode. However, they did not enter the Mu abode, but waited outside. Since Nye Tion couldn't enter the Mu abode, he couldn't help wearing an unhappy expression. Right at this moment, an azure-clothed old man walked out of the Mu abode. The old man's gaze swept across the crowd and he said in a clear voice, "Everyone, please wait here. Don't be impatient. The eldest miss is dressing up and will come out soon." With that, the old man turned around and returned to his residence. At this moment, Nye Tion finally understood that the dowry maids weren't even qualified to enter the Mu abode. They could only wait outside and marry into the Yi clan with the Missy of the Mu clan. These servants practically gave their lives to the Mu clan, but they didn't even have the qualifications to enter the Mu abode. Just thinking about it, it was truly laughable. Nye Tion, on the other hand, didn't care. He would just wait outside. Roughly an hour later, there was finally a commotion in the Mu abode. First, 8 red-clothed martial artists appeared, neatly guarding outside the door. Nye Tion glanced at the 8 warriors. Each of them was at the 5th level of the Heavenly Mandate realm. Although this level of strength wasn't considered too strong, it was already an extremely terrifying expert in this small Nine Changes city. The Mu clan sent out 8 warriors at the 5th level of the Heavenly Mandate realm to protect the bride, which showed how much importance they attached to this marriage. After a while, an extremely luxurious bridal sedan appeared. It was carried by 4 Heavenly Mandate 9th level Saint Masters and slowly walked out of the Mu abode. When the bridal sedan was carried out, the surrounding crowd immediately became excited. The Missy of the Mu clan came out. What a grand scene! Who can't deny it? This is a marriage alliance between the Mu clan and the Yi clan. It's of great significance to the entire Nine Changes city. A marriage alliance between 2 great clans. This is a major event for our Nine Changes city. Everyone discussed and seemed very excited. They were even happier than when they were marrying off their own wives and daughters. Nine Changes city had always been ruled by the 3 big families. Now that the Mu family and the Yi family were united by marriage, the current balance would definitely be broken. Hence, it was highly possible that Nine Changes city would change completely because of this marriage. Next, thousands of martial artists walked out of the Mu abode and welcomed the dowry maids. They followed behind the bridal sedan. As for Nye Tion and the others, they became decorations and were ruthlessly thrown to the side. After a while, the entire bridal sedan began to march towards the Yi clan under the escort of countless people. "Big brother Nye Tion, my sister is going with them. What should we do?" Mu Chen followed Nye Tion and was very anxious when he saw Mu Yu being taken away. "Don't worry. I won't let anything happen to your sister. Nie Tian smiled faintly and signaled Mu Chen not to panic. Mu Yu was currently following the Mu clan's bridal sedan, and was considered safe. Nie Tian didn't want to make a move at this time. He only needed to follow the bridal sedan and act according to the situation. If it really didn't work, he would just directly take Mu Yu away. And now, he was even more curious about how the marriage alliance between the Mu clan and the Yi clan would proceed. Nie Tian brought Mu Chen and followed behind the bridal sedan. Young master, it's this brat. At this moment, a deep, murderous voice rang out, and a figure appeared in front of Nie Tian. It's you? When Nie Tian saw that person, he couldn't help but laugh. He was a little surprised. The person in front of him was the martial artist from the Mu clan who almost died in his hands. He didn't expect that this guy wouldn't give up and actually brought others to settle the score with Nie Tian. Standing behind him was a blue-haired young man. His facial features were handsome, and he gave off a heroic aura. However, his eyes were cold and grim as he stared at Nie Tian. Brat, was it you who attacked the martial artist from the Mu clan? The blue-haired young man said in a cold voice, his eyes surging with killing intent. It was me. Nie Tian didn't deny it and laughed. It's a big taboo to attack the martial artist from the Mu clan in Nine Changes City. The blue-haired young man's face was gloomy and the killing intent in his eyes became more obvious. Do you want to kill me? Nie Tian smiled again. His calm reaction made him seem very provocative. What do you think? The blue-haired young man shouted in a low voice. His whole body released his aura and rushed into the void. Suddenly, a roar broke out in the space. Don't be impulsive or you will regret it. Nie Tian raised his eyebrows and smiled faintly. This blue-haired young man's strength was not weak. He had already reached the 3rd tier of the heavenly mandate realm. It was not easy for him to have such strength at his age. He could be considered a rare martial arts genius. Unfortunately, such strength was not worth mentioning in front of Nie Tian. Is that so? The blue-haired young man growled as he sensed Nie Tian's disdain. Then, he prepared to attack. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt a huge sword essence oppressing him, making him completely unable to release his strength. How is this possible? The blue-haired young man exclaimed in surprise. He looked at Nie Tian and suddenly trembled. Nie Tian smiled faintly. Just as he was about to say something, his expression suddenly changed as if he had discovered something. Chapter 38:25. Boom! In the void, a violent roar resounded. Between heaven and earth, there was a sea of fire. It was as if everyone had fallen into purgatory. Ah! Then, the scorching flames spread to the ground. Screams of agony rang out as many people started to burn. Seeing this, Nie Tian's face suddenly darkened, and a hint of violence appeared in his eyes. If the person in the void was here to kidnap the bride, then what he was doing was too cruel. Most of the people below were weak, and could not withstand the impact of such terrifying flames. Boom! In the next moment Nie Tian moved. The astral energy in his body gushed out and the totem that covered the sky appeared again. It transformed into a giant net that enveloped everyone. Bastard, are you trying to run? Seeing this, the blue-haired young man thought that Nie Tian was trying to escape. With a low roar, a blue blade of ice appeared in his hand and he stabbed at Nie Tian. Hua! Instantly, a bone-piercing coldness spread out. Everywhere it passed, time and space froze. Get lost. Nie Tian felt the coldness coming from behind him. He suddenly turned around and with a low roar, he stabbed out with his sword. The swords will shattered the cold chi and landed on the ground, leaving behind a pool of blood. Under the impact of the sword's will, the blue-haired young man retreated hundreds of meters. After he stabilized himself, half of his body was a bloody mess and one of his arms was cut off. You! His face was pale and bloodless but he could not feel any pain. There was only extreme fear in his eyes as he stared at Nie Tian, speechless. He obviously did not expect Nietion's strength to be so terrifying. With a casual swing of the sword, he crippled one of his arms. What shocked him even more was that Nietion was so young, about the same age as him. Who was this silver-haired young man? How could he be so strong? If you get in my way again, I will kill you. Nie Tianling glared at the blue-haired young man coldly and left behind a cold sentence. Then, his silhouette flashed and he rushed into the sky. With his strength, killing the blue-haired young man was as easy as flipping his palm. However, he didn't kill him because he was concerned about his identity. He might be the young master of the Mu family. He still had to deal with the Mu family, so he didn't want their relationship to be so stiff. The blue-haired young man stared blankly at Nie Tion's back for a long time, and his expression trembled without end. Obviously, he was quite frightened. Get out of here! Nie Tion's silhouette flickered like a bolt of lightning. Astral energy gushed out from his body, unceasingly strengthening the power of the heaven-shrouding totem, resisting the impact of the flames in the air. He roared in anger, ordering everyone to retreat. The power of the stars was the origin of power. The shrouding sky totem had a strong resistance against any power. However, Nie Tion's development and understanding of the power of the stars were not enough. Therefore, it was not easy for him to block the power of the flames for a long time. What was even more troublesome was that the flames in the void seemed to be endless as they continued to descend. It was as if there was a sea of flames descending from the sky. Run! Run! It was chaos below. The crowd was running in all directions, but there were too many people. It would take a lot of time to completely evacuate. Moreover, everyone was only concerned about their own lives. They didn't care about others at all. In this way, it directly caused chaos. Some of the weaker people were directly stepped on and then mercilessly trampled to death. Nie Tion's face was incomparably gloomy when he saw this scene. Everyone, listen up. Evacuate in an orderly manner for me. He roared violently from high up in the sky. Suddenly, his domineering voice fell into everyone's ears, causing everyone to tremble. Everyone looked up, and only then did they clearly see the situation high up in the sky. They immediately understood that if it wasn't for Nie Tion blocking the flames, more than half of the people present would have died in an instant. However, the crowd didn't listen to Nie Tion's warning at all. They continued to run on their own. Selfishness had always been the most essential side of human nature. At a moment of life and death, who would care about the lives of others? Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Nie Tion roared, his eyes revealing a cold intent. Damn it! He really wanted to take back the totem and let these people live and die on their own. But he didn't do so. If he took back the totem, most of the people who died would still be weak. Nie Tion, be careful. Just then, Little Fat Cat suddenly cried out, appearing to be a little flustered. Nie Tion jerked his head up, and saw a fireball descending towards him like a storm. 8 Baron Blade. He reacted instantly. The sword in the sky pierced through the void. The shadow of the sword howled like a dragon and met the firestorm head-on. Kaboom! In the next moment, the two extreme forces collided. The void roared and suddenly, waves of violent force surged out like a raging wave, sweeping through the sky and earth. Under the impact of the violent force, Nie Tion's figure retreated for 1,000 meters before he managed to stabilize himself. He steadied himself and saw a figure in black standing high in the sky. A pair of red, murderous eyes were staring at him. That's the guy. Nie Tion's eyes darkened slightly. He looked at the figure in the distance with sharp murderous intent in his eyes. He used his divine consciousness to probe and could not help but change his expression. This figure was not strong. He was only a saint master of the heavenly mandate realm. With such a strength, it should be impossible for him to release such a terrifying flame power. It's a matrix. While Nie Tion was in shock, Fat Cat's voice rang out and said in a deep voice, "A matrix." Nie Tion was stunned for a moment. Then he realized what was going on. The murderous intent in his eyes became even more intense. It turned out that this guy had set up a big matrix in the sky in advance and directly activated it, creating a terrible impact of flames. Kill him! At this moment, an angry roar sounded in the void. Then dozens of warriors in black appeared. They were the people of the Mu clan. They moved together and rushed up like thunder toward that person. You're courting death. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he spat out 2 cold words. Then there was a sudden movement in the void. Countless fireballs appeared and connected in the air, turning into a sea of fire that shrouded the warriors of the Mu clan. Watch out! Seeing this, Nyetian let out a low roar. His figure moved directly. The sword will all over his body surged wildly and violently. He slashed out with his sword. The sword's shadow was like a wild beast, directly hitting the flame net. Boom! The next moment the sword's shadow fell. Suddenly, the flame net sank as if it was about to collapse. Chapter 38:26. When Ye Tian saw the tragic scene under the flames, his eyes trembled slightly and his face was extremely gloomy. If he hadn't slashed out with his sword and slightly blocked the attack of the flame net, the dozens of Mu family warriors would have all died tragically. However, even so, only a few of the dozens of Mu family warriors were left alive. The eyes of the few lucky survivors trembled as they looked at the martial artists in the sky in horror. They were obviously frightened, and their figures involuntarily retreated. You guys go down and save them. Leave this guy to me. Nye Tian took a step forward, turned around and glanced at the Mu family warriors, and growled coldly. Yes, yes. Those people were stunned at first and then nodded frantically. They didn't know who Nye Tian was, but they were shocked by the latter's aura and didn't dare to disobey. Nye Tianling stood in the air and took a deep breath. Outside his body, the power of the stars surged, and he forcibly supported the sky-shrouding totem. Boom, boom, boom. At low altitude, the sea of flames was tumbling. Waves of flames were like thousands of demons dancing wildly, constantly attacking the sky-shrouding totem. Beads of sweat oozed from Nye Tian's forehead, and he was already showing signs of exhaustion. After all, he wasn't strong and it was impossible for him to maintain the sky-shrouding totem for a long time. Your Excellency, this has nothing to do with you. It's better if you don't meddle in other people's business. At this moment, the person high up in the sky spoke in a deep voice that was filled with killing intent and indifference. What if I insist? Nye Tian's eyes were cold and murderous as he responded coldly. I thought you were a smart person. Unfortunately, you're as stupid as them and deserve to die. The person's eyes darkened slightly and revealed a murderous intent. Then, the flame in the void increased and the surrounding temperature suddenly rose. The surrounding hundreds of thousands of meters were like a furnace. Nye Tian couldn't help but frown when he felt the blazing aura in the void. Even with the strength of his martial body, he could feel the intense heat at this moment. His whole body seemed to be on fire. He had to admit that he had underestimated the other party. You're the one who's really stupid if you view life as worthless. Nye Tian's eyes suddenly darkened and he let out a low roar. His body moved in an instant and the sword will from his body gushed out crazily. A vague shadow of a sword appeared outside his body. It was extremely huge, tens of thousands of meters long, and it directly rushed towards the person in the sky. Since you're courting death, I'll grant your wish. High up in the sky, the black-clothed cultivator spoke in a cold voice. He could feel the intense killing intent surging towards him, but he was not afraid at all. Boom! In the next instant, he blasted out with his palms as boundless flames gushed forth, causing the entire space to sink as though it was about to collapse. After that, a sea of flames appeared as tornadoes of flames gushed forth, resembling gigantic serpents coiling about, exuding a violent aura that could devour the heavens and earth. Nye Tian was in midair. Even though he had activated the extreme fire flaming heavenly battle armor, he couldn't withstand the attack of the sea of flames. Zzz. Under the violent rush of the flame intent, the armor on his body was actually being torn apart bit by bit. Following that, the flame aura surged into his body and forcefully tore apart his flesh. This flame, it's so strange. Tian forcefully endured the intense pain. His heart was filled with astonishment, but his eyes were still as sharp as ever. He didn't retreat at all and continued to rush towards the black-clothed cultivator. Tian, this is the Ghost Clan's 3 mysterious dragon flames. It's no small matter. At this moment, Fat Cat's voice rang out, reminding Tian. Yes. Tian nodded his head solemnly, but his silhouette continued to rush towards the sky. Brat, you dare to resist the 3 mysterious dragon flames? You're courting death. The black-clothed cultivator in the sky saw Tian rushing towards him. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he spoke in a cold voice. Die for me. Immediately after that, he shouted. Suddenly, the flames in the sky gathered together, forming a sea of flames. After that, a violent flame serpent rushed out, causing the air to emit a mournful wail as it rushed towards Tian. Tian's eyes darkened slightly as he felt the intense killing intent coming from above his head. Then, the 9 dragon veins in his body started to revolve crazily, and a deep dragon roar sounded in the sky. This was the first time he used the ancestral dragon chi after merging with the ancestral dragon shine. The violent and overbearing ancestral dragon chi pushed his entire body's aura to an extreme level. Boom boom boom. In the sky, the dragon chi surged like thousands of waves, causing the sky to rumble continuously. Die! Tian's eyes were like torches as he stared at the black-clothed cultivator. He let out a deep roar, and in an instant, an enormous dragon shadow appeared in the boundless dragon chi. It directly rolled out, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Huh! Seeing this scene, the black-clothed cultivator was obviously shocked. He couldn't help but exclaim in shock. His eyes trembled slightly, and for the first time, he revealed a look of fear. He couldn't imagine that Tian could actually release such a terrifying power. Kaboom! Boom boom boom! In the next instant, the flaming snake and the enormous dragon shadow collided with each other, causing a loud explosion in the sky. Then, a violent force spread out and wreaked havoc in the space. Boom boom boom, chi chi chi. Then, the 2 forces collided, devoured, and strangled each other. The space was in a state of chaos. Tian and the black-clothed cultivator's figures were instantly engulfed by the violent force, and they couldn't be seen at all. The sea of flames and the totem collapsed at almost the same time, turning into a huge shockwave that swept across the ground. On the ground, a layer of soil that was tens of meters tall appeared, and some of the weaker cultivators were directly engulfed. After a long time, the violent force in the sky dissipated, and 2 figures appeared, standing there. One was like a sword and the other was like a flame. These 2 figures were Tian and the black-clothed cultivator. At this moment, Tian was covered in blood, and his body was covered in horrifying wounds that were charred black. On the other hand, the black-clothed cultivator didn't suffer too many injuries. There were only some small wounds on his body that weren't fatal. However, his face was extremely gloomy, as if it was about to drip blood. And on the ground, when the soil dissipated, there was blood everywhere, and corpses were everywhere. You destroyed my spirit array. At this moment, the black-clothed cultivator looked at Tian and suddenly roared violently. His eyes were deep and murderous, and he was extremely fierce, as if he was about to eat someone up. Obviously, he didn't expect that Tian actually saw where the spirit array's eye was, and when he fought with him, Tian directly destroyed the spirit array. In order to destroy the spirit array, Tian didn't hesitate to take the risk and fight with the black-clothed cultivator. In the end, after being seriously injured, he successfully destroyed the spirit array. Chapter 38:27. You really are here to kidnap the bride. Nie Tion's eyes were extremely gloomy as he said in a cold voice, You killed so many people just to kidnap the bride. Don't you think that your methods are too cruel? Cruel? The man smiled cold and said, They are the real cruel ones who don't let me be with Mu Shuyan. Mu Shuyan? Nie Tion's eyes narrowed as he said, That's the name of the Mu family's eldest daughter, right? Are you sure that she wants to be with you? Of course. The man was very certain as he said, Shuyan and I have already agreed that no matter what happens, we will be together. Nie Tion's expression changed slightly as he could feel the passion and desire in the man's eyes. He didn't expect that this cruel and bloodthirsty man would have such an infatuated side. Even if that's the case, is it right for you to kill so many people? Nie Tion's eyes were murderous as he said, Could it be that in your eyes these people's lives are worthless? For Shuyan, I can disregard everything. The man's eyes were extremely cold as he said in a deep voice. Nie Tion frowned as his eyes trembled slightly. He didn't know what to say for a moment. Even though the person before him was brutal, the determination in his eyes was enough to move one's heart. It wasn't easy to go this far for the sake of the person he loved. However, this didn't mean that he could kill innocent people. Mu Shuyan, have you forgotten our oath? Are you really going to marry that trash from the Yi family? At this moment, the man in black suddenly roared. His violent voice was like thunder as it reverberated in the void, causing people to feel a chill down their spines. However, on the ground, the bridal sedan surrounded by dozens of Mu family cultivators did not react at all, as if it didn't hear anything at all. Mu Shuyan, I know you are listening. Even if you don't say anything, I will tell you that I will never let you go in this lifetime. The man in black said in a deep voice. Every word he said was like thunder, filled with determination. Sovereign sword punishment. At that moment, a voice finally rang out from the sedan chair. It was clear and bright, but at the same time, it carried a hint of determination and even a hint of despair. The voice said, Go, we can't be together. Mu Shuyan, what are you talking about? The eyes of the black-clothed cultivator named Jun Jianxing suddenly darkened as he growled like a wild beast. Mu Shuyan's words were like a sharp blade stabbing into his heart, causing him to feel the most genuine despair. Leave, I don't want to see you ever again. Mu Shuyan's voice rang out once more, resolute and cold. Why? Jun Jianxing's eyes suddenly darkened. His eyes were filled with a sense of violence. He was like a ferocious beast that was about to go berserk. He roared furiously, angrily. Nie Tion looked at Jun Jianxing, who was on the verge of losing his mind, and frowned deeply. He could feel the desperation in the latter's heart. Mu Shuyan, I'll ask you again. Do you really want me to leave? Jun Jianxing roared like a wild beast. After a moment, he calmed down. His eyes trembled as he looked at the sedan chair on the ground coldly and said word by word. Go. Mu Shuyan was silent for a long time before she finally opened her mouth. Her voice was cold and resolute. Ah! Jun Jianxing's eyes widened, as if his heart had just been stabbed by a sword. He then uttered a furious roar into the sky like a ferocious beast, as the fiery aura from his body became incredibly ferocious, causing the rift to be filled with ferocious waves. Nie Tion frowned. He felt a strange aura from Jun Jianxing. This aura actually made him feel threatened. Nie Tion, this guy is not simple. His blood contains the power of the human clan and the ghost clan. At that moment, Fat Cat reminded Nie Tion. Double bloodline of the human clan and the ghost clan? When Nie Tion heard Fat Cat's words, he couldn't help but be shocked. Fat Cat nodded heavily, looking a little nervous. Boom. At that moment, Jun Jianxing's body suddenly trembled. Suddenly, an even more terrifying flame aura burst out. The entire heaven and earth trembled as if it was about to burn. Nie Tion's eyes darkened and his figure retreated a few thousand meters. He was not in a good state at the moment. It was definitely not wise to fight Jun Jianqing head-on. All of you deserve to die. At that moment Jun Jianqing roared. His eyes turned into a strange pure black color, as if he had turned into a demon. His body kept releasing violent flame aura, turning the heaven and earth around him into a sea of fire. Mu Shuyan, I don't believe that you will leave me. Then, Jun Jianqing roared and a sword of flame appeared in his hand. He moved like a falling meteor, rushing toward the bridal sedan on the ground. Protect the lady! Seeing this, the warriors of the Mu clan suddenly shouted. Dozens of warriors moved at the same time. Their aura burst out and linked together, rushing toward Jun Jianqing. Rumble! In the next moment the most brutal collision occurred. The void space roared and the heaven and earth exploded. The wild power surged wildly and spread in all directions. It was extremely terrifying. Bang, bang, bang. Then, with a series of muffled sounds, the warriors of the Mu clan flew backward, leaving bloody trails in the void space. And Jun Jianqing, burning like a flame, rushed down with great force. This guy is so strong. Nie Tion's eyes froze and he was shocked. The dozens of warriors of the Mu clan were all high-level Heavenly Mandate Saint Masters. Among them, there were even many 9th Heavenly Mandate Saint Masters. However, such a lineup was unable to fight back against Jun Jianqing, and they were killed in an instant. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Jun Jianqing was at the moment. In the void space, Jun Jianqing flew like a meteor and was about to reach the bridal sedan. Boom! But at that moment the sky above suddenly trembled. Suddenly, a violent and boundless power descended and condensed into a giant hand in the air, pressing down. Boom! Jun Jianqing did not have time to react. His body was directly hit and he was smashed into the ground. Boom! The ground shook violently, and a huge wave of dust rose up. The sudden scene made Nie Tion's expression change. He looked into the void space and saw a white-haired elder standing there like a mountain. Not far from the white-haired elder, a young man in white stood there. His eyes were cold as he stared at the ground. People of the Yi clan, you finally showed up. At that moment, Jun Jianqing's figure broke through the ground. His eyes were cold as he stared at the white-haired elder and the young man in white. Chapter 38-28 Yi Wuye. Jun Jianqing suddenly turned around and saw Yi Wuye. He called out his name in a low voice. His dark eyes were filled with an extremely cold and murderous light. Yi Wuye was the third young master of the Yi family, the man Mu Shiyan was about to marry. How could Jun Jianqing not be angry when he saw him? How could he not kill him? Jun Jianqing, we finally meet again. Yi Wuye, on the other hand, appeared to be very calm. His cold eyes surged with playfulness as he smiled sinisterly. After we parted last time, your strength did not increase. Nie Tion's lips twitched when he saw this. It seemed that Jun Jianqing and Yi Wuye had known each other for a long time, and they were very familiar with each other. It's enough to kill a despicable person like you. Jun Jianqing roared in a low voice. The fiery aura around his body surged, making him look like a wild beast, extremely violent. Is that so? Yi Wuye sneered. Then, he took a step forward and a terrifying aura rose from his body. It was like a raging wave that surged into the sky, surging in the void. Saint Tianyi! Jun Jianqing's eyes trembled as he cried out. He was obviously very shocked. He didn't expect that Yi Wuye had already become a powerful cultivator of Saint Tianyi. However, the next moment, he calmed down. His lips twitched coldly as he said, "The power of the Holy Knight Chalcedony is indeed powerful." There was anger within the coldness, murderous intent within the anger, and resolute within the murderous intent. Humph! Yi Wuye looked at Jun Jianqing and couldn't help but sneer. He said, "This is all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to get the Holy Knight Chalcedony." Despicable person! Jun Jianxing's dark eyes suddenly narrowed. He roared and pointed at Yi Wei, saying, "So it was you who did this." Boom! At that moment, the flames around his body exploded like never before. Waves of fire rushed into the air, setting the world around him ablaze. Jun Jianxing, the holy night chalcedony is a sacred item of the school. You stole it without permission. I will report this to the school. You are doing a righteous thing to get rid of a scourge for the school. Yi Wei's face was cold, and his eyes flashed with a cold light. Son of AB*****. Jun Jianxing growled again. The flames on his body grew stronger, like a furious beast. Yi Wei, this is all your scheme. At this moment, from the bridal sedan on the ground, a feminine voice rang out. Following which, a figure dressed in red with a phoenix crown and a red robe broke out of the sedan. She was as cold as a sharp blade, standing in the air. This figure had exquisite facial features and a beautiful appearance. She was the eldest daughter of the Mu family, Mu Shuyan. When Jun Jianxing saw Mu Shuyan, his eyes trembled and he cried out in surprise. Mu Shuyan, don't you think it's too late for you to realize it now? However, Yi Wei turned around and looked at Mu Shuyan. With a cold and gloomy face, he said, "You're going to be my woman soon. You'd better be the third young mistress of the Yi family." "Dream on," Mu Shuyan growled. Her beautiful eyes were like snow as she trembled. She said, "When I was seriously ill, it was you who asked Jun Jianxing to steal the Holy Night Chalcedony from the academy. When he got the Holy Night Chalcedony, you used the excuse of treating my illness to cheat him of the Holy Night Chalcedony. Then, it was you who reported it to the academy, causing him to be expelled from the academy. He will never be able to step foot in the academy again. You're the one behind all of this. It's all your scheme." Mu Shuyan suddenly understood everything. Her beautiful eyes trembled, and her entire body was filled with anger. She was like a volcano that was about to erupt in the next moment. She, Yi Wei, and Jun Jianxing were all disciples of Holy Rock Academy. Moreover, the three of them were under the same teacher. They were fellow disciples. Several months ago, Mu Shuyan suddenly contracted a strange illness. Black runes kept appearing on her body. Yi Wei told Jun Jianxing that only the Holy Night Chalcedony of Holy Rock Academy could save Mu Shuyan. In order to save Mu Shuyan, Jun Jianxing took a risk and stole the Holy Night Chalcedony. He then gave it to Yi Wei and asked him to save Mu Shuyan. Originally, Jun Jianxing had planned to surrender to the academy after Mu Shuyan got better. He would confess his wrongdoings and bear all the consequences. However, he did not expect that the people of the academy would find him so quickly and expel him from the academy. He would never be able to step foot in the academy again for the rest of his life. At that time, Jun Jianxing suspected that Yi Wei was behind all of this. However, he had no evidence. It was only when he suddenly heard that Yi Wei was going to marry Mu Shuyan that he began to understand everything. At this moment, Yi Wei finally admitted everything in front of him. "You're right. Everything was planned by me. Even your illness was caused by me." Yi Wei looked at the furious Mu Shuyan and smiled faintly. He said, "However, it's useless for you to understand all of this now. Yi Wei, I treated you as a brother. How dare you set me up? I'm going to kill you." At this moment, Jun Jianxing let out a roar. All the fiery energy in his body burst out violently. He struck out with his palm. Instantly, rolling flames poured out like a torrent toward Yi Wei. Boom! Yi Wei stood coldly in the void. His eyes were cold. He casually struck out with his palm and easily blocked Jun Jianxing's furious palm. "Humph!" Yi Wei sneered and said, "Jun Jianxing, do you think I'm still as strong as before? You have no idea how much the Holy Night Chalcedony has improved me. Even if you were at your peak, you would not be a match for me, let alone when you're seriously injured." "Damn it!" Jun Jianxing roared again. The aura in his body surged wildly. However, at this moment, He was no longer a threat to Yi Wuye. Nie Tian watched from the side. He had already understood what had happened from the conversation between the three of them. He did not expect this guy called Yi Wuye to be so despicable. Jun Jianxing was very cruel, but at least he was upright. He was not like Yi Wuye, who would stab someone in the back. Why do you want to set me up? Jun Jianxing's eyes were extremely gloomy as he roared violently. Why? Yi Wuye laughed and said, because you're too outstanding. Why do you always surpass me? Why do I always get ignored when you're around? In the eyes of the master, you're the proudest disciple. In the eyes of your peers, you're the most talented warrior. In fact, in Mu Xuyan's eyes, you're the best senior brother. What about me? I'm the third young master of the Yi family. Why do I always have to be suppressed by a guy who's neither human nor ghost? I can't accept this.